Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 30th, 2025 meeting of the Chatham Select Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chair. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203, that's 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. First order of business is to establish a quorum. Ms. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Dykens.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
Mr. Smith.
Present.
And the chair is present. First business item is to approve 4 sets of minutes, which I think can do fairly quickly. The first is a set of minutes from February 25th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments, corrections? Hearing none, we'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Abstain.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so that's 401. Approved. Next are the minutes of March 4th, 2025. Is there a motion
to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Abstain.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Abstain.
And did you abstain on the previous one as well?
I was hoping you weren't catching that, but yeah, I shouldn't.
I will amend the vote to say that you abstained. So that's 302 on that and 302 on this one. I didn't catch that. Next are the minutes of March 18th, 2025. Is there a motion
To approve?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any corrections or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Abstain.
And the chair votes yes. So that's 401. And last is minutes of August 12th,
Motion to approve?
25.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I have one editor, I think, or two actually, on page 5. These are just typos. But almost just more than halfway down, the paragraph that believes that the town of Chatham Water Department rules and regulations. In the second line, the word languages, I think, should be singular language. And in the last paragraph, third line from the bottom, the third word in from the right-hand side, which says R, I think it should read the letter A. Before the words, insert a comma before the words. Is that correct? You can check that, Kathy. I may have that wrong. For some reason, I thought R was incorrect, but whatever. You have something, Mr.
I do not.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we'll take a vote on this. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That's 5-0. Next, we have public announcements and agenda item requests. The town manager has 2 announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first one relates to Muddy Creek. Route 28 will be temporarily closed on Saturday, October 4th, 2025, between 8:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. for a dedication ceremony honoring World War II veteran Army Private Joseph Conrad Bluth, who was killed in action while serving in Europe. The public is welcome to attend the dedication ceremony in honor of the memory and sacrifice of Private Bluth. And then the next one is the Visiting Nurses Association of Cape Cod and the Chatham Health Department are holding vaccination clinics on Wednesday, October 15th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, and on Thursday, October 23rd from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Registration is required, and the links to register were included in the September 26th meet sheet.
Thank you. Does any member of the board? Ms. Davis?
I just want to reiterate an agenda item that I put forward in our interview, that the draft regulations for the seasonal community designation has come out of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and are open for public comment until October 31st, 2025. So if anybody out there, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to take this up as an agenda item to review and comment on. You may go to the Mass Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities website, and you'll be able to click a link to review the comments and to share your thoughts. Rep. Luddy and Senator Sear asked that any comments be CC'd to their offices. Secondly, the Cape and Islands Municipal Leadership Association has been meeting on, has been doing a little outreach to all the towns to sort of give a hey, hello, and this is what we do kind of thing, and sort of give an overview of the association's work and programs and opportunities. So I'd love an agenda item, or maybe it's even during public comment, that the board president, Mark Forrest, would like to come and just give a brief comment on the organization.
Okay, we will do both of those. I think we should probably do the seasonal communities, which came out this afternoon only.
It did come out this afternoon.
And Kimla is doing, has a legislative breakfast that came out this afternoon on the 10th of October.
October 10th
And they're
at the
going to hear
Sheraton.
a presentation.
Yep.
So we'll be able to, all of us will be able to attend that.
Great.
Well, I think we'll probably put seasonal communities on for the 14th. If the deadline is the 30th,
Yep.
that probably makes sense.
Thank you, Dean.
And we'll invite Mr. Forrest at a subsequent meeting. Any others from the board? Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Dean. Wondering if we could consider a couple of agenda requests for the near to medium future. One is maybe an update. This could also take place during Rob Faley's updates on the water. Well, maybe, but the COA update on the construction of the renovations of the COA building, that would be helpful. I'd like to see a public records policy for the town. We have a public records law, and I think it would be helpful for the public to have a policy they can go to understand and what they can expect from the town. There's a couple of others.
Could I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Do you have some thoughts that you want to put down and submit to the board for consideration?
Sure, I could do that.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
And the other two, which I don't know what your list looks like, but I'd like to discuss the personnel committee that's mentioned in the charter, and a general, and maybe it can be in parcel with Shireen, but a housing discussion, a general housing discussion on different initiatives that the board might consider. And I can list those out
Okay.
beforehand.
I think thank you. On the COA update, I think we're going to try to have something on the 14th of October.
Yeah, that's fine. If
I think we want to
does it.
hear, because there are some finalized estimates which haven't come in yet.
Yeah, and I think you folks are aware of the buoy reduction letter from the Coast Guard, or comments we sent in comments, the Coast
Yeah.
Guard responded. We got, I would say, the wrong buoys, but nonetheless, we should probably respond by letter. But I do want to have a discussion with the board on that, because there could be some fiscal impacts that
Okay.
I don't want to presume.
Is there a time consideration on that?
Yeah, the letter is due by November 14th, so we have some time,
Okay,
and my thoughts are easy.
Okay.
I hate
Maybe we can put that on for the first meeting after the 14th, not on the 14th, but
The 28th would be the
28th,
next.
that would be my suggestion, yep. Okay, is that it, Stuart?
That is it, thank you.
Okay, any others from the board? Any public announcements or agenda item requests from the public? Gloria Hicks.
Hi, Gloria Hicks, Meeting House Road. I would like to request again a speed limit drop on Route 137 from Commerce Park to Route 28. I spoke with the Department of Transportation myself. I ran it also by Rob Faley. That is a town-owned, maintained road. I was under the assumption a couple years ago it was a state road. It is not. The police are constantly detailing that, patrolling that road from the churches all the way to 28. With the housing development going in, they will get a sidewalk. The abutters will not get a sidewalk. I haven't heard of any talk, and I'm highly unlikely we'll get one. So we're going to be forced to walk onto 137 to get to the bike trail instead of using that easement road that's there. It'd be nice if we had a sidewalk, but I don't have much hope for one. The development will have a sidewalk. So if we could drop that speed limit from 40 to 35, it would be helpful. And I don't know what's going on with the digital speed limit readouts. There was one on the corner, I believe it was Morton and 137, and then there was one on each side, and now none of those are there. So I don't know what the plan is. There's a do not pass sign that is completely obstructed with tree limbs. So it would just be really helpful. People just bomb down that road.
You can probably get some information on that from the police department. They're placing them
Oh,
at
they
their
are?
discretion, at the mobile ones.
So why would they remove them?
I would assume they're placing them in different locations, and they're there for a period of time and moving them somewhere else. But you can probably get better information from that from Chief
Okay.
Anderson
Okay, I will ask
or
them.
Deputy Chief Malzone.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, would it be more productive for Gloria to recommend that we just remand that over to the Traffic Study Committee so that they could, the 137
The
issue?
137, we could do that. It's really not before us to make that determination at the present time. This is just an agenda
Right.
item
I'm
request.
just, okay.
You haven't taken this up with the traffic
I
safety?
have not. Is that where I should take it before I take it? I brought it up here before, and didn't hear anything back, so I don't know where I'm supposed to take this.
Most often, we have them take a look at something, and then they make a recommendation
So
to
I
us.
should go to one of their
Let me
meetings?
put it this way.
ahead.
Unless someone on the board insists that it come before us, first, I would suggest that you might start with the Traffic Safety Committee.
Okay,
They would make a recommendation to us. They'll investigate it and make a recommendation to us.
Okay.
You can always come back to us if you feel you're not
okay.
getting.
And Gloria, we can help
That's
connect you with the traffic safety
Well,
committee.
the meetings are posted, so I can just go to one of the
Yes.
meetings, I suppose, and ask them.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
thank you, Gloria.
Do-
Anna Smith, I saw your hand up.
Dean, 1 second,
Yeah.
if I might. 137. I was always under the impression it was a state road. Does that mean 137, 124, 130, 139? I mean, all of those roads going down the Mid-Cape are,
My understanding is that all those perpendicular streets are state-numbered roads, but they're municipal roads. We plow them.
yeah, my understanding was we maintained them, but that the state owned them. Now, I'm wondering whether it would be helpful in conjunction with this going to the traffic study that maybe Jill could
I think
come to
that
a
the Traffic
conclusion.
Safety Committee will have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I know, but there's general confusion over this issue, and I'd like to have it definitively answered for once. Maybe Jill could write an email.
Duly noted, and I think the Traffic Safety Committee will have
Thank
to
you.
take a look at that. Ms. Smith?
Hannah Smith, North Road, Chatham. I wasn't really planning on saying this today, but I think it should be addressed. It's not about water.
Happy to hear that.
So I'm sure everyone's aware of the Gabriel House fire in Fall River. I believe it was yesterday or the day before, the Fall River Fire Chief actually went on local news and asked all towns, not only in Massachusetts, but across the United States, to be aware of the recalled sprinkler systems, because he recently went around in the community and found that additional 4 buildings in Fall River had those same recalled sprinkler systems. So I guess I'm just up here, not necessarily, I guess, for an agenda item request, but an announcement to see if there's anything, we can do apart from the fire chief making an announcement or, making businesses aware. But I feel that we should just kind of put something out there, whether it's the town manager's monthly reports, just really anywhere, even, trying to get it in the newspaper, just talking about, okay, here is, I didn't write down the number for the recalled sprinkler systems, but I can get that. But the Fall River Fire Chief, I'm sure he made that available on their website, just to make people aware and to check to make sure that they don't have a recalled sprinkler system, because it seems like a lot of places that felt they were up to code were actually using recalled sprinkler systems. So there's a few of them, I believe, that are listed on there, so.
Well, thank you. The town manager's obviously heard what you said, and I think we can have some internal follow-up on that.
Thank you.
No one else in the audience? Anyone online? Elaine Gibbs.
Thank you. As it relates to Route 137 and its status, I would recommend, instead of just turning it over to traffic safety, they only meet once in a while. They do a lot of work. This is time sensitive because of meeting house, kids, crosswalks, all that kind of stuff. That someone just pick up the phone and call Region 5 of Mass DOT, which takes care of the Cape, and or call the state office of Mass DOT to find out what the status is and what we can and cannot do. Because if we need to put in crosswalks, if we need to add sidewalks, it may be that they have some control over that. We do the daily maintenance, but I still think they're probably considered state roads for some of that kind of work. And then we get a definitive answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion. I think as sort of a threshold question for the Traffic Safety Committee, that's something they should consider doing. Anyone else? Okay. Now we will have public comments on the business agenda. And this is being retained as an agenda item, even though we allow contemporaneous comment on the business agenda for anyone who wants to speak now versus later, as opposed to speaking twice. But the business agenda includes an update from our Chatham delegate to the Assembly of Delegates, who happens also to be the Speaker of the Assembly, Randy Potash, on the county charter review and the luxury transfer fee. Then there is a request for a special one-day alcohol license from Mahi Gold. There is a request from the Chatham Community Housing Partnership to revisit the vote regarding the decision to pause 127 Old Harbor Road's progress. Then there will be a discussion of the property tax and local relief initiatives at the request of Vice Chair Dykens, which will include options for property tax relief and some discussion of town and community resources for financial support for Chatham residents. Then there is a discussion of tax relief measures submitted by Chatham resident and former Select Board member Seth Taylor. I intend to, unless there is objection from the board or Mr. Taylor, and I know he has none because I spoke with him beforehand, to take these two items together and have a full discussion, and I would ask that we defer any motions until the conclusion of that discussion. Then there is a discussion on that Clerk Smith has requested regarding a provision in the town charter concerning the town manager's administrative powers and duties. And then for board discussion only, committee appointments to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees. There is one vacancy, and the town manager's monthly report. So are there any public comments on the business agenda at the present time? Seeing none, we will proceed with the business agenda. So I will invite Randy Potash, Speaker of the Assembly of Delegates, to make a presentation. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello, everyone. So, two topics for tonight. I'd like to start with the saga of the charter review from this year. so you can understand what might be happening in regional government. So this is 2025, obviously, and every 5 years, the regional charter states that a review must be done. So we hired KP Law, Lauren Goldberg, to help us out with that. And I appointed the following 6 people to work with me. And I want to let you know who they were, because I want this to all be a story. Susan Moran, who a lot of you probably know, she's a former state senator here, and she was also the chair of the Falmouth Board of Select, and she had been deputy speaker at the Assembly in the past. Then there's Michaela Wyman Colombo, who's the chair of the Select Board in Mashpee, and she's on the Assembly. Wayne Sampson, who is on the Finance Committee over in Bourne. He's a former police chief, and he's done charter reviews before. Patrick Princey, who is a former Speaker of the Assembly. He's also a probation officer in Barnstable. Then there's the Assistant Town Manager in Provincetown, and I don't remember his name. And then there's Sheila Lyons, who, as you know, is the Chair of the Board of Commissioners, and she's on the Select Board in Wellfleet. And I was the chair of that committee. So we started back in April. Like I said, we hired counsel, and it was the feeling of the 7 of us that the charter should be looked at with regard to its structure. Because currently there are 18 elected officials to, just to put it quite bluntly, argue about a $20 million budget. And many of us on the charter review are also delegates, and we, I think we're an altruistic bunch, because we wanted to look at making, go from 18 to maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6. And so we brought it over to the Assembly for their comments. And we said, are people open-minded about, looking at the structure? And all I wanted was the group to pretty much just say, yeah, show us something. But that did not happen. So the ones that the Assembly members that are on charter review, we were disappointed, because they really weren't like open-minded, and we had to say, do we want to spend time, doing that and pay KP Law? So then what happened was that Mark Forrest, I think it was on his motion, he took another route, because there's many ways to skin this cat. And he put forward a resolution that was agreed upon by all 3 commissioners to say, we want to petition the legislature to start an elected charter commission to look at the structure. And once that happened and they voted on that and it went up, no one else can look at anything with charter review, really. Because what would happen then is that there'd be, basically a circus for the voters, because there'd be the idea, do you want an elected charter review? And if so, who do you want from your town? And then there'd be other charter questions that we could have raised, through charter review. So what we did, and I'm just going to pretty much read you from the report, is that we voted 6-0, because one person wasn't there, to recess our deliberations, because we didn't want to add another ballot question or any more ballot questions to just confuse the voters. And so we stopped charter review. And now this is going to take place, and what your ballot is going to look like if the legislature doesn't decide to look at abolishing the entire county, that they would say, you have one person from each town running for this elected charter review, plus one person from each town running for the Assembly of Delegates. So that's 30 people, or more, because more than one person could vote, could run for all this. So don't you have a headache already? Yeah, you oughta. So we stopped this crazy thing, like the cartoons would say, and we're not doing the charter review anymore, and now the voters will have an interesting ballot, and so that's where we're at with charter review. Now, the other contentious issue is the regional charter, let me just call it by the right name, because you're not supposed to call it a tax, the luxury fee.
That's a familiar tactic, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a luxury fee. Call it what you may. I'm not here to advocate or anything. I'm just here to update you on what's happening at the county. I'm not here to get into any kind of a wrangle whatsoever. And if you don't want the Chatham delegate to vote for this, then I'm sure it'll be made known. And the Chatham delegate probably won't. It depends. But what's happening is that the Assembly of Delegates has had a number of meetings, and the public has been invited. You've all been invited numerous times. And it's about whether or not the regional government should petition the legislature to put together a regional luxury fee for any homes that are over a certain amount. I don't have any details because it hasn't been drafted yet. And that's been an issue. People are saying, you're asking us to opine on something that's not even drafted, but if you drafted something, they'd say that's no good, or some people would say it was good. So instead, we've taken the approach to just gather information, taken testimony from many, many people. And so that's where we're really at now. And what could happen is that 51% of the Assembly would be all it would take in order to petition the legislature to allow for this. Now, just so you know, the legislature, the legislative delegation they've come to our meetings, not every one of them, but most, and they've all been cheerleaders for this. Because they understand that many towns have tried to do home rule petitions but haven't been successful, Chatham being in that camp. And they feel like this would be a vehicle in order to get that done, and then towns could opt in or out, and you wouldn't have to partake. So that's what has been advocated by the delegation. Julian Sear came to the meeting, and he just considers this a tool in the toolbox. So the other thing is that 51% of the Assembly will vote on this later in the fall, and that's not all, though, because then it would also have to be accompanied by an ordinance so that there'd be money, a fund to put the money in. And that has to be done by ordinance, and that's much more tricky, because then it has to go over to the commissioners, and at least 2 out of 3 of them would have to say yes. And if they didn't, then it would take 67% of the Assembly in order to get that done. That is very unlikely. So, questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Dykens and then Ms. Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Dean, and thank you, Randy, for the update. Appreciate it. I did attend the first meeting. I think there was a subsequent one. I'm thinking that the effort for the county sponsorship of the transfer fee is duplicative rather than additive. We have a bunch of home rule petitions up there. We've filed it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. It could be 5 times, I don't know. And town meeting has passed and showed its support. So I think another layer of government involved in crafting and trying to get this transfer fee passed, again, maybe duplicative. Now, I think what I've heard from our local delegation is that they believe they need the political muscle somehow to get this past the legislature. I'm just not convinced that that's the route we should take without knowing the detail of the route. So I'd be opining or commenting on a plan that I don't know enough about. I know what our home rule petition read when we filed it with the legislature, and I know our delegation knows. And many other Cape towns have filed these transfer fee requests or home rule petitions. And I think that those ought to be concluded, rather than the county jumping in kind of and saying, hey, we think this is a good idea too. Maybe it's all good intentions, but there's no detail whatsoever. We don't know where the money's going to go. We don't know how it's going to be apportioned. We don't know if there's going to be a fee by the county. There's so many unanswered questions that I'm real skittish about it. I am not at all skittish, as opposed to my chairman over here to my left, about the rationale for the transfer fee itself. And my overall rationale has been all along that those funds would fund affordable and attainable housing, ownership and rental. So, and I think it would be a very efficient way to raise funds for affordable and attainable housing. That's it. And we need the money, we need an ongoing source of money without burdening the taxpayers of the town. We would be burdening a sale of expensive real estate.
And the only thing.
That's exactly, what I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's exactly where I land on this one. Again, without a lot of detail, it's really difficult to really weigh in on this one. But I just feel as though.
Can I respond to that, Mr. Chair? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just going to tell you what Julian Sayre says to that. I'm not saying that it's true or it's not true. It seems to me that their rationale is that if we send up something, it's going to be like a piece of putty anyway, because they're just going to change it around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even if we said, this is what we'd like to do, and even if you were excited about it and encourage the assembly to do it, once it gets up there, all bets are off. They're going to change it.
So just a brief response. Then the Assembly ought to weigh in and put their political muscle behind all the home rule petitions that have already been filed. And allowing each town to craft its local, option, or its
That's a good
local
idea.
piece of,
Yeah.
So if the county wants to get involved, put the political muscle behind the legislation's passage, let the General Assembly's passage of those petitions that have already been filed. That's what I think that's where the Assembly, I think, could really add a lot of value.
Good to know.
Those are my comments.
Shereen?
Thanks, Dean, and I wholeheartedly agree, but I'm going to add a little more to this. I do think it is duplicative, as Jeff said, but I'm looking at it from a unique perspective of Chatham and the other towns that have really worked hard to get this over the fence in their communities, and then we have other communities that aren't making those efforts, but will reap the benefits of it without that work. And from a community like Chatham and like, let's say, Provincetown, that has a high, high sales rent, rate of sales on their property, higher value, we're going to be putting a bulk of the money into something that all of a sudden gets taken out of our community, and we won't be able to utilize that as a unique aspect for our particular housing. Not to say that a holistic approach to housing on Cape isn't not a bad idea, but there's other ways around this. I think maybe the and the other thing is that you've got 3 people voting as the county commissioners, and that makes me a little nervous. I'd rather have us decide what we're going to do with our luxury tax things. But one of the things that I see is maybe the county should be working on a Cape-wide seasonal communities designation for the entire Cape Cod. And that way there'll be a lot of by right things that all the towns could benefit from. But and I think Wellfleet agreed with what I said about our high values, and I know that Provincetown had a conversation with Leslie in select board member in Provincetown, same thoughts. And so I'm not in favor of this. And I'm in favor of things that come out of the community rather than having something pushed on a community. And I think it holds more value for the community. So if, let's just say, X town didn't do it, X town didn't do it, So that's where I'm landing with this. Thank you.
And I just want you to know that I didn't put this forward. I can pretty much assure you that I won't vote for it,
I appreciate that.
for various reasons.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? I have some, but
No, I'm just in agreement that if you put some political pressure on this, what Chatham has kind of put forth makes more sense. That I would appreciate and echo that support.
Yeah, and again, I want you to know that Julian Sayre, because I can't help but try to stick up for him a little bit, he thinks that this is going to help you get, he thinks that it's going to help it all in the long run. And so I can't really forget that, because he's, pretty much said it numerous times. And if he's right, and if it does pass, then I hope that it doesn't ding the town. I really hope it doesn't.
okay. Did you have anything, Stuart? No. I just wanted to say 2 things. It's no secret. I'm against the transfer tax. I think I share the view of a former colleague of mine on the Finance Committee. If you have a community-wide need, everybody should share in it, not just certain properties. One detail that I would point out, the suggestion is that the threshold is going to be $1 million home. Well, the average price in Chatham is 1.7 million. I think a flaw in our Chatham transfer tax petition is that the $2 million threshold is fast becoming archaic. It should be self-adjusting. Having said that, if you're going to have a transfer tax, I agree with what Shireen and Jeff were saying. I want local control over our money. I don't want to have to go cap in hand to the county for money, and I don't want that fund built up with money coming mostly from Chatham and other destination communities. But I do appreciate what Senator Sear and others in the delegation, I guess our own rep, are trying to do to deal with the housing problem. But I think ultimately the solution is going to come from the legislature. I think they're going to adopt a statewide local option statute. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I don't think any individual town is ever going to get the opportunity to have their own. I'm doubtful that the county could. Maybe they've got more legislative clout than I imagine, but those are my sentiments, and I wouldn't at all attempt to try to dictate to our delegate how she should vote. Appreciate what you said, but that's, you should vote your conscience, but those are my observations.
Well, any delegate represents the town and the people in it, so, you know, that's, needs to be taken into
Yeah.
account.
Are there any,
And, yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Any public comments? Okay. Hearing none. So thank you, Randy.
thank you.
And thank you for your
Thank you so much.
service.
Good to see you.
Thank you for your service for the community as a speaker. The next item is an alcohol license for, special one-day alcohol license for Mahi Gold, October 18th, 2025 at 465 Main Street. And I understand online is Mr. Sam Johnson to present this.
Yep.
Anything you'd like to say, or we have the application before us?
Yeah, no, just you're here with myself, Sam, and then our store manager, Jen. Pretty straightforward. We've done it before for Oktoberfest in years past. We've taken into consideration kind of the safety aspects. I think we've talked to the owners with Brian before about having the doors closed, which is something we can easily do. But yeah, like I said, we're just trying to have Trillium come down and have some beers for that Saturday.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve one-day alcohol license.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this application. Yes, Mr. Meadows.
Just protocol question. I believe we also need to consider waiving the 30-day
Yes.
filing.
The motion should be to waive the 30-day application requirement because they got it in late and grant a special one-day alcohol license as applied. I assume that Mr. Smith, you
Yes.
make that motion and Ms.
And I'll second it.
Seconded. So thank you, Mr. Meadows, for pointing that out. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you.
Awesome.
I
Thank you.
want to propose taking something out of order. I know the next item on the agenda is the decision to pause 127 Old Harbor Road, and I know, Carolyn, you're in. The next two items relate to tax relief measures. That's going to be somewhat of an extensive discussion, and I know one of the principals has a time commitment, and we started the meeting a little later than we had to. Would that be objectionable to you, Carolyn, if we deferred 127 till after this next item? Thank you very much. So we will proceed to discussion on, this is item D, discussion on property tax and local relief initiatives that was requested by our Vice Chair, Jeffrey Dykens. It has two parts: options for property tax relief to year-round property owners, exemptions, abatements, deferral, and town and community resources providing support and financial assistance for Chatham residents. The item after that, and I'm proposing to take these together, unless there's objection from the board, a discussion of tax relief measures by Chatham resident Seth Taylor. So with that, I'm going to turn to you, Mr. Dykens. I will note that we do have ample representation from our Finance Department. Carrie Mazzarola, our Director, our Assistant Assessor, Candace Cook is here, as well as the Director of Assessing, and I see two members of the Board of Assessors here as well, in case there are any questions or comments. So, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dean. Yeah, in the same spirit of the discussion surrounding the residential tax exemption, I requested that the town research and present those items for year-round residents that would provide them some relief from various and sundry taxes, et cetera. There are two buckets here. There's a bucket of relief measures or opportunities that already exist that I don't believe many or everyone in town is aware of. So one of the reasons why I made this request was to give it airtime. So I'd love to have the assessors come up and Carrie come up and just one by one briefly go through them so people hear what's out there. And because I don't think they know. I didn't know half of them. Then the second piece of this is, are there any items that are listed that would need town meeting approval that we should be considering for a future warrant article next May? So, and that's kind of up to us and more discussion. We have some questions there. But if you just bear with me for a second, I'm not talking about, an hour and a half here, but if you could just go through those items that are listed as the ones that are already a regulation here in town and give it some airtime so that folks understand them and can hear about them. Thank you, Candace.
Candace, yeah, I know we have an extensive memo. If you want to just kind of touch the highlights
Just
on
touch
it.
the highlights, it'd be great. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Our Assistant Assessor, I think that's your title, right?
Yes, Assistant
Okay,
Assessor,
welcome.
that's correct. So I'm Candace Cook, and tonight what I'll do is I'll just go over briefly the current tax relief options that we have, and they're going to be all under Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5. So it is state regulated, and that the Board of Assessors oversee it. These are not Board of Assessor programs, this is state law. So when we go over these different clauses, so if you hear anybody talk about the clauses, it is under those 59, Section 5. So we do have Clause 18, 18A, that happens to do with the exemption as well as a deferral. Those two are for a period of 3 years. The difference between the two is the exemption is taken care of, you do not have to pay that back, whereas the deferral, you do have to pay it back after that 3 years. Both of them don't necessarily have an age requirement on it, even though the exemption form does say aged and affirm. The Department of Revenue has given the Board of Assessors discretion to grant it to someone if they provide that they are unable to do something financially because of illness, unemployment, or change of active service. Then you have your various exemptions, the different clauses. I won't go into detail on them. It just depends upon what your disability rating is with the Department of Veteran Affairs. As long as you have at least a 10% service-related disability, then you would start to get an exemption off of your real estate taxes, and then some of them will get a exemption off of their motor vehicle as well. So then you can go on to individuals that are not having to do with veterans. Those are your blind individuals. So they would get an exemption. This does have age requirements on it. You do have to be 65 years of age and determined by the Commissioner of Blind that you are legally blind, or a letter from your doctor. And that has to be as of July 1st for the fiscal year when you fill out that application. Then you have your property tax deferral. That is the 41A. This is similar to the other one, although there is an age associated with this being 65. And you can defer it for as long as you want until you sell the property, but you only can defer your real estate taxes. You cannot defer the two taxes, which is your OPEB, the other post-employment tax, as well as your CPA, the community preservation. Those have to be paid. You cannot defer those. Now going on to Clause 41C, this is the senior exemption, and it has the D associated with it, and what that means is it gives you the authority. It's a local option that was adopted back in 2007. So that way the income and asset limits can be increased yearly according to that consumer pricing index to reflect the cost of living. There are age limits on this one, 65 years of age, and there are income and assets limits in your packet. I won't go into detail. Now you have your Clause 44B, that is the community preservation. That is exempted in full. As we know, it's a fairly minimal tax, but you only have to be 65 years of age. There's no assets associated with that. Then you have your senior work-off program, and they can get up to a certain amount off their taxes in exchange for working on behalf of the town, and that is covered by the Council on Aging. They oversee it, and they provide the information to us who is eligible. And then the other two that we have, obviously, is the residential exemption. As we know, that shifts the burden amongst the residential class, so that gives tax relief. And then, of course, with the tax classification hearing option, that just shifts the burden amongst the residential class to that CIP, the commercial industrial personal property class. So those are just the ones that we have available. The other ones that are in the packet are new.
That's very helpful, to be honest with you. We have 5 different opportunities for vets that I didn't know about, and I think is very important.
There's actually more.
Yeah.
I just
And
did a couple. There's just, it depends upon their disability rating and what they've done in, as far as the medals that they've received, and if they've had especially adoptive housing. So each veteran that comes in, we sit down with them, and they just determine what the best exemption amount is for them.
Gotcha, great. Let's go through, please, just the list of exemptions that could be adopted by town meeting should we so
Absolutely.
decide to do it.
So-
So we're informed as a board, and we know, or have perhaps some warrant articles for next year.
So again, now we're still under Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5. This is the BRAVE Act, which is the Be Ready to Assist Veterans in Extremis Act. You have your Veteran Clause 22G. Now, these all have to be adopted at town meeting. These are not currently in effect. And what this does is it just gives the option that if a veteran has done some estate planning and they put their property to a trust, they still would be eligible to be able to receive their exemption. This would take care of the ownership requirement.
Okay.
Then you have your 22H. This is a full exemption, and it's granted to a qualifying surviving parent or guardian of an active duty who died during the military service or because of the military service. Then we have the HEROES Act, and this has to do with an act honoring and empowering and recognizing our service members and veterans. And this is going to be under Clause 22I. And this is, if you were to adopt this, it would increase the amount of that exemption, very similar to like we do our senior exemption, the 41C plus that D. And I'm going to give examples in a minute. And then you have Clause 22J. This increases the veteran exemption up to 100%, and that's at the discretion of the Select Board. The Department of Revenue allows you to either go less than 100%, but you can go up to that 100%. Now, if you were to adopt Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5C and a half, what that exemption allows is an additional exemption on top of another exemption. So you couldn't adopt 22J if you wanted to adopt 5C and a half. Now, to do an example, I use the town of Orleans, so you have an idea of what that veteran would get. So you would go with 412 is what a base price would be for the exemption on the veteran. You double that, because that double would take in the 22J if they decided to do it, the town of Orleans Select Board decided to do 100%. So that comes up to $812. They also adopted the 22I, which is the cost of living adjustment. And just for this year, it's $24. Again, that changes yearly. So instead of that veteran getting 412, they now are receiving $836. And you would do the same calculation for the other amounts. You would just double it and add in the COLA.
Quick question, Candace, was there any argument for why Chatham ought not to adopt these?
I haven't heard.
Okay, thank you.
And I know these just came up just this last year.
Thank you.
Are these exemptions on, against the,
I don't think these were ever brought up before, because they are very, very new. They were just enacted as of last year.
are these exemptions deducted against the tax bill or the valuation of the property?
The tax bill, it's a flat fee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Candace.
Then, and then there's a couple more.
Yep.
So now you do have, again, we're still under the Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5. This has to do with seniors, 41C and a half. So if this was to be adopted, it would replace our current 41C exemption. And this is treated very similar to the residential exemption. The only difference is the Department of Revenue only allows the Select Board to go up to 20%. So you can, again, adopt that percentage that you want, and it's on 20% on the average of the residential class, very similar. But there's an age that's associated with this, as well as income. And the income does have to be tied to the circuit breaker, although you do not have to require that the person that is applying for it, they don't have to show that they filed the Schedule CB on their personal tax returns.
Important point on this one, I believe, is that you can also get the RTE and
Correct.
and this.
You can get
You're-
both the residential exemption as well as the 41C and a half. The only thing we just have to take in consideration is that their tax liability does not drop below the
Below
10%.
10%, yeah.
We'd have to
Very
take
good,
that into
very good.
consideration.
Yeah, there's some nuances here that we need to know about.
Yes.
Thank you, yeah, yeah.
And then there's the means-tested senior exemption. There's a few towns. This is actually where you would adopt special legislation to be enacted into legislation. There's a couple of towns that have it: Andover, Hopkinton, Concord, Shutesbury, Westboro, and Reading. And what they did is they adopted this special legislation under the Municipal Empowerment Act. And what this does is it's a senior means tested that the select board would determine a 50% actually on a flat fee. You would determine what you'd want the amount to be on. And again, it's based on, the seniors as well as the income and assets, whereas the 41C1/2 does not have assets related to it, whereas the senior means does. And I'll use the example of Concord. What they decided to do is they used the 65 years of age. The resident requirement was 10 years, and their income had to meet that state circuit breaker limits, which they had single was 72, head of household was 91, and joint was 109. And then the assets maximum had to be no more than 275. And that excludes the residents because you don't include the resident value.
This one would take a little bit more work by the select board.
Yes, and I did reach out to town council because I wanted to clarify some of this information. They said that if you did want to adopt it, they'd be ready to assist with that language.
Okay. All righty.
And then just going on to the senior work-off program under Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5K. This just gives the option, we already have it enacted, but it gives you the option that it can be increased. For the seniors, it could be increased up to $1,500. Currently, we have it at $500. And then if you were to adopt the 5N, which specifically relates only to veterans, then they could be up to $2,000 would be exemption. And lastly, on here is the housing exemption. That has to do with if a landlord were to rent out their property, as long as they do it at an affordable rate, they would receive the discount as long as the other, you pass it on. And the town of Harwich, they actually decided to adopt that at their town meeting, and they decided to use the 125% of the federal housing and urban development to determine their income criteria, and they decided to use $108,598 for their salary, and they decided that the rent could not exceed $1,739. So those are all the ones that we have.
So now
Oh, and
it
just one
takes-
side note, all of our assessor training material has been updated from the Massachusetts Assessors Association, so to reflect the reimbursement amounts for all these new ones that have come forward. Because as we know, this is not revenue neutral, like with the residential exemption. If you were to adopt the 41C1/2, or if you increase any of these, this will come out of our overlay account, and we'll get some state funding,
Got it.
just to be
What
clear
is
on
the,
that one.
what is the affordable housing property tax exemption that's referred to?
So what that is that has to do with if a renter, if someone were to rent out their property, they would get a discount so long as they rent it out at an affordable rate.
Okay. And, I'm sorry.
No, it's just likely, I'll be, not this evening, but I'm going to be forwarding,
Yeah,
agenda item
we're
request
going to
for
discuss that. I'm
discuss.
going to ask that we defer any motions until we complete the full discussion.
Okay.
For both items tonight. The fiscal impact, there's a paragraph in there, you talk about the overlay. I wanted to mention to the
Absolutely.
board and the public that I did ask the town manager when we have our budget summit, that there be a presentation on what the overlay is, because it's a rather arcane topic.
Yes.
I think everybody should know a little bit more about it, including myself. But thank you. Did you have anything more on this one?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Jeff, this is.
No, I'm good.
There was a second item in the packet. I don't think we need to go through it unless someone is interested. This had to do with town and community resources providing support and financial assistance for Chatham residents. And there is a memo from the town manager and the director of community services, Leah Lacrosse, discussing various town-operated and assisted programs like the Dr. Selden Family Support Program, the Child Care Voucher Program, free transportation to medical appointments, grocery delivery, and prescription delivery for older adults through the Council on Aging Center for Active Living, Healthy Meals in Motion, run by the Family Pantry of Cape Cod, the Town of Chatham's Senior Tax Workout Program, which was mentioned, fuel assistance, various community partners and programs like a baby center, Homeless Prevention Council, Lower Cape Outreach Council, Society of St. Vincent de Paul, Cape and Islands District, Chatham Ecumenical Council to Prevent Homelessness. And I think that completes the list. So, yeah, any
I just
comment?
had a question about funding on one of them, because I know I think I know the answer, but you're listing fuel assistance as an option, and CFAL runs it. Who funds the fuel assistance fund? Do you know, Jill? It's a state program.
It's a state program.
Okay.
And I think it's,
Grant money, I think.
it's administered through Elder Services.
Got
but
it.
is
Oh,
state.
so it's all elder services stuff. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on Jeff's piece of this discussion? Any other comments from the finance director or the assessing department? Okay, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Taylor's presentation. Seth, if you want to take, and we did receive some materials from you. As I read them, I think there were two very specific proposals that you were putting forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First thing, that you've got a number of handouts. There was a tag-along that's in your packet that doesn't belong there. It should start at the top, says motion, and it talks about shall the town adopt provisions of Massachusetts General Law 59, Section 5, Clause D. That, there's no point that we already do. That's something from last May that somehow tagged its way into the stuff I sent along, so you can push that to one side. I have three items that are in the package that involve town meeting, that two of which are already prepared, and I petition article format for submission to the warrant via petition this coming May. And then there's a third one that would be submitted via petition to town meeting as well, that you don't have a form for, that I will talk about the three of them independently. And the fourth thing in your packet is what Candace just talked to you about, which is MGL Chapter 59, Clause 41C and a half. I won't go into that since she generally referenced it, but if you take the time to look below the paragraph that says what it does, the thing that's important about Section 5, Clause 41C and a half, this has to go on the ballot. This isn't a town meeting thing. So this would require your action to place it on the ballot. It couldn't get there unless we did a citizen's petition of 200 signatures, which is what's required for petitions to put it on the ballot. So think about that, and I won't go into that because Candace talked about it, but if it's one of the things you think you'd like to do, just recognize that it is a ballot item, and it can only get there either by citizen's petition of 200 signatures, or it gets done because the select board places it on the ballot.
Seth, can I interrupt?
Yes, certainly, absolutely, and I hope anybody will.
This is, so this 41C and a half, what this would do, as I'm reading your draft.
Yeah, four bullet points there.
Yeah, it would, the amount of the exemption would be based on 20% of the average assessed value of all Class 1 properties in town. The qualifying age would be reduced from 70 years to 65 years. The residency requirement would be reduced from 10 years to 5 years, and the exemption would use household income rather than the single applicant basis. Is
Yep.
that the correct summary?
Those are the big items that ticket. I also think if, and I'm going back in memory now because it's been a while since I spent all of this research, but I think that one of the things to be careful about is when you look to adopt 59, 5, 41C and a half, it may very well be that there's language in that once you do that, it makes all the other stuff in Clause 41 go away, right? Am I correct on that, Candace? Yes, so my memory serves me correctly.
Right.
If you decide that this is like the silver bullet and you just want a one thing, this is a one thing because it makes all the other stuff in 41 go away. So that's really important to remember. And those bulleted points make it easier for you guys to understand where you want to put it in your quiver of things to work. And now, if we can, I'd look at the three things, two of which you have already before you that are set up in citizen petition warrant article format. and I'll speak to those second and third. What I will speak to first is an item that I believe can go, I know it can go to the warrant for consideration, but it's almost a specialty item. And it's peculiar to maybe one or two people in town, but it's pretty serious as to the effect it would have. We have at least one low-income senior in town that has both tax-deferred tax liability to the town, meaning a tax-deferred lien on their property under Title 59 tax deferral, and the same individual has a tax lien under tax title law, which is in Chapter 60. Both of those liens are registered separately with the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. So in essence, we have one person who's a senior that has two separate liens on their house. One because she fell behind in tax title, and the other because late in the process of understanding, learned about tax deferral, which if that taxpayer had known about it, probably never would have had half the tax title problem. And the tax title problem is huge because the interest rate on that is 16%, and the interest rate on the tax deferral accounts is 8%. And where all money that goes to pay back either of these accounts, either the tax title account or the tax deferral account, every dollar you put in goes to interest first.
We're going to catch up. Yep.
And so once you get behind at 16%, you never catch up.
Never going to catch up.
At 8%, you have a hell of a time catching up, right? So the first thing that could be done to solve this, but again, it's kind of like a boutique item, is I believe that we could petition the legislature for a special act of the legislature, because under our home rule charter, the legislature is much more responsive to us asking for special things that are only applied to our town. I believe that they would be receptive to us asking for a special act of the legislature that would allow us to consolidate tax title accounts and a tax deferral account for people that qualify, meaning seniors, low-income seniors, who would qualify for tax deferral account. Because if you could accumulate those into a single outstanding debt to the town, under the rules of tax deferral, you'd have a lot easier chance of working that off than under tax title. Because although last November they changed the laws on tax title, guess what they didn't do? They did not change the amount of interest being paid on current balances. So although now the interest rate on tax title accounts from newly established tax title accounts going forward will be 88%. Any balances that existed prior to November of last year are still ticking at 16% with that interest accruing daily. So this is like the legislature and the governor really wanted to try to fix this, but this stuff is complicated enough that somewhere along the line they tripped and fell down and didn't even understand that they were leaving it, it balances at 16%. So that's a thought that I believe we could go with a special act of the legislature in order to resolve that one or two taxpayer problem.
So this item is not one that you had submitted something?
No, it is not.
Okay, but you described.
I hadn't written it. I've, as you know, Mr. Chairman and other members of the board, I've spent a lot of time just very carefully combing through both Chapter 59 and Chapter 60 to try to get some resolution on how we help people.
No, I just wanted to clarify what was in the packet. And what's
this is one of the things that came to me late on how do you fix these, one, I'm looking on the broad side of things about how to fix the big problem, and then narrowing down to smaller incidents where is there a solution for this individual problem. And I think on this, we're only talking about one account, I think. Yeah, Candace says we have one account where there is a person that has both tax deferral and tax title accounts.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So it'd be a fix for one person. But now, let's go to the two items that I have that you will see that are formatted in the citizens petition format with the blocks for the signatures. And for the sake of the people at home, because they don't have copies of this stuff, I'll read them because they're very brief. And I'm presenting them as I would if I were at town meeting. Motion. Pursuant to the local option authority granted to towns under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, Paragraph 3, Parens 1, I move that the town shall adopt and assess an interest rate of 0.5%, parenthetically 0.5%, against all outstanding tax-deferred balances where such tax monies that are due to the town result from the senior citizen property tax deferral provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 5. The laws in Chapter 59, Section 5 allow, we don't have to take the 8% that's statutory. We are allowed to adjust the interest rate on tax-deferred accounts down. And when I first wrote this, I said, well, hell, let's just make it 0. But the language of the statute says you can reduce it. It doesn't say you can eliminate it. And so I dropped it down to 0.5%.
Okay. And this
because
is
that fits the wording of the statute, which says the town has the authority to reduce it. And that is a matter before town meeting. That's why I've set it up as a petition article.
This is for someone that is in a tax-deferred program.
In the tax deferral program, correct, right?
Very good, got that one.
All right, and the next one, this reads a little more, in a little more complicated fashion, but that's only because somewhere along the line, it appears that, and I don't wish to put words in town council's mouth, but I became aware of the fact that it seemed that if we had a bylaw that was adopting a statute, that didn't get modified if the statute was amended. And to me, that seemed bizarre. Like if Chatham chooses to adopt Massachusetts General Law 000, and then the legislature changes that law through amendment to say something else, that somehow or another we have to go back and amend our bylaw to catch up to the amendment of the state. Now, that doesn't make sense to me, but somehow that filtered into my brain as an opinion of council. And I'll leave it at that, but that's why the language in this next one is a little convoluted, and I'll apologize for that, but I think it does read and make sense. Motion. I move that the town vote to adopt, or as may be appropriate, amend local bylaw, incorporating therein the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 60, Section 62A, as amended, and in keeping with the amended statute as it exists or as it may be amended in the future, the town shall allow any property taxpayer who is in tax title to enter into a payment agreement with the town, whereby the agreement shall include a term for the repayment in full not to exceed 10 years, with the initial minimum payment of 10% of the outstanding balance of the tax title lien, less interest. Further, and in keeping with the authority granted to municipalities by the Commonwealth under Chapter 60 as amended, the town shall waive interest on outstanding tax title accounts for all taxpayers who enter into and maintain an active payment agreement with the town as developed by and with the treasurer collector, and that taxpayers who are party to any such agreement shall continue to comply with the terms of the agreement as originally entered into between the taxpayer and the town, or as said agreement may be adjusted by joint and mutual consent of the treasurer collector and the responsible taxpayer at a later date. If you guys, Corey and Dean and Jeff, you guys were on the board when the Eldridge property thing came up, and we wound up adopting at that time the 5-year payoff thing. This changed in November of last year to turn it into 10 years and the language that's here. But then all of a sudden, and allowed us to waive the interest if there was an agreement in place. But then it seemed that the legislature found that there were problems with that. And so they told the collector to hold on, don't get nervous, things are still in flux and changing, and we're not sure what they're going to turn into, but don't get going crazy on this stuff. And so in the instance of another person that's in tax title account, the collector, instead of going with the 10 years, 10%, kicked into our bylaw, which was 5 years and 5%, to avoid a complication that council felt existed because of the uncertainties of what the legislature was doing. But this, as I have written it, is directly as the law reads, resulting from what the legislature did last November. And
So
the way I read it, this is perfectly legal for us to do, and supposedly the legislature is in the process of trying to make some fix, and DOR is saying, hold on, wait, there's something going to happen. But by my reading of the way this piece of statute changed last November, with the 10% and 10 years instead of 20% and 5 years, that this is perfectly agreeable to the statute as it's written right now, and I'd rather move quicker than the legislature and DOR may move if it is legal and if it helps our taxpayers quicker than, the state can move on anything. So that's the whole point of this one.
So to distill this down, so this takes a property that's in tax title,
Correct.
and that's a property where the town has actually gone to court,
No, didn't go to court, just filed a lien.
filed a lien, okay.
Yep, there's no court action.
And this says the town could enter into an agreement not to exceed 10 years for repayment, initial payment of 10% of the balance with no interest. That's what this.
And waive the interest,
That's
that's
what
right.
this does.
Yep, because the statute as it went through last November provides us to waive interest.
What would this do with the bylaw that you were referring to, that we did on the Stony Hill Road, the Eldridge property, where the 5 years and 5?
Well, this is an expansion of what was available by statute back then, which was 5 years and 20%. 20% down, you only get 5 years to pay it all off. If you don't, tough luck, you go back to the beginning and you get no get out of jail free card.
Okay.
This expands the period to pay it off and reduces the upfront payment from 20% to 10%. And it also had the provision that allows us, as a municipality, to waive interest.
Okay.
All right? So in the instance of the taxpayer that I know, you have a taxpayer that's paying $7,700 a year when that taxpayer's property is actually around $3,400. And will never, and the balance of monies owed to the town continues to grow at a rate that in 10 years, it'll be close to, $150,000 of money owed while paying twice as much annually that the standard property tax would be, simply because you're staring at the consequences of an incredibly onerous 16% interest rate, which is no one's fault other than the fact that that's the way it was written into law and nobody paid a lot of attention on, at a level where we could do something about it. Okay. And these petition articles are, by my reading and going through the statutes carefully, and as they've been changed since last November. I believe that we could move forward with these next May, and that they would have the benefits that you can read fairly plainly in there. Now, these are things that could be put on the warrant by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Does this complete your list of the
This
items?
completes my list, yep.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Seth or comments? Jeff?
Yeah, how many pieces of property do we have in tax title now in the town of Chatham?
21 tax title. Last I knew, there were 21, but cautiously, a couple of those are second homes. So it's not that everybody that is,
So that was my,
that is thumbing their nose. I mean, there are some people that truly are in trouble, and there are other people that are just kind of like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it, or so what?
so why,
I don't know,
why would-
individual basis.
again, why would we want to waive interest for those folks?
Carrie?
I don't think we can. I mean, I don't know.
Hi, Carrie Mazzarella, Finance Director. I can get you the exact amount of people that we have in tax title for you. I don't have that number. I know there was a couple that were unknown parcels as well, so.
Yeah, there are unknown parcels, yep, gotcha.
Go ahead, Jeff, you had another.
No, I just have kind of a summary when we're ready for it, I just.
Corey?
Brief comment, I mean, like I say, just using the two, or if there are smaller amount or secondary homes, can language be crafted that it only applies to a primary residence, and would that have any standing of legality? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, but.
I should think that we could submit anything we want to the legislature, and if we can get them to enact it, unless there's an equal protection issue that would be raised by Senate or House Counsel, I suppose, something like that. I just had, unless, Stuart, did you have something?
No, well, yeah, I guess I do. Thank you for putting all this together, Seth. It's a lot of work. I'm going to have to read this maybe 3 times, but why, was there any rationale that you saw in your research that they came up with 16%? That seems like almost criminal.
16%?
Yeah.
No, that's historic. That's been around for a long time.
It's just.
You know, that's like usury fees. I mean, that's
yeah.
like leg breaker stuff. That's like the, payday loan stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
when I said this before, and you're laughing, Jeff, but shame on me. Shame on all of us, right? I mean, how can that happen? How can we, in good faith, allow 16% to pile up on somebody who's already demonstrated, not that they're scofflaws, but that they simply can't meet their tax bill?
Yeah.
When we have been looking at our assessed value balloon beyond all proportions. Now, it's great to have a low mill rate, but what the hell does a mill rate mean if your property's gone from being
Right.
$300,000 in value to being $1.8 million, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what do we want to do? Do we want to chase, historic families out of their home?
No.
So that we can take control of it, or that we can let the developer take control out of it, knock it down and turn another McMansion into it, while we're sitting around paying money to try to get affordable housing?
Yeah, it's.
When the people who are already living here, we'd just like to be able to keep them in their home. And I don't, we're talking about people that are trying to get by and that are happy to pay their taxes, and they'll try to do it. I mean, you got somebody paying $7,700 when their tax bill is worth $3,200. I'd call it a person that really wants to do the right thing, right?
Yeah, no, it's kind of astounding. I'm glad you put this all together. Now, I'll argue to the other extreme. Why 0? Or why, I'm sorry, why 0.5%? Is that a?
Oh, no, that's a different one. That's
Yeah, but,
on the tax
no,
deferral.
right, but-
It doesn't have to be. I mean, we're allowed, when you read the statute, it says the town can reduce the interest to any amount.
Right.
Right? But it uses the word reduce. It doesn't say you can eliminate it. My attitude is, if you got people that are trying like hell to pay it off,
Why should we be making?
why should we? It's an accounting thing when you think about it, right? It isn't like we're losing money,
Right.
right? It's numbers from one side of a ledger to the other side of a ledger, because it's not like it's money that is really real money.
Right. Well, no, thank you, and good work, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I do want to note that the the assessing department and the finance, it's the finance director put together an analysis of Mr. Taylor's proposals, other than the ballot question item that I referred to. If anyone has any questions, I guess I had a question, Carrie, with respect to the point that Stuart just brought up about the interest rate. I think you looked at some other towns that have done this. They're sort of bringing it down from 8 whatever to what, 3 or 4%?
Yep, roughly 4% is what I've seen, and I think I have found, and no towns on Cape, they're all off Cape.
No towns on Cape have done this at all.
I haven't seen any. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, and they're roughly around 4 to 4.5%.
Do you have a list of the names of those towns? I'm curious.
Yeah, City of Newton, Woburn, Ipswich, Belmont, Lexington, and Hanover.
No poor towns there.
You got to excuse me, but 4% interest, I mean, treasuries aren't returning that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we in the business of trying to make money off the poorest people in town? Is that what we should be doing?
I understand that. The other question I had, I guess for you, Carrie, is so put aside the ballot question one. The tax title, tax deferral, consolidation, that doesn't involve any impact on the taxpayers, really. They're, in general, the other taxpayers, not the ones that we're trying to help.
Right.
The interest rate, that doesn't have any impact, whether it's 0 or 8%. Does that have any impact? It just means we get less money into the town coffer.
Right, for the tax deferral, the 41A, right, we would just get less money when the deferral was paid off.
Okay. When that money comes in, where does it go? Into what account does it go?
It goes to the deferral account. So there's actually, it comes, so on the accounting side, we have a commitment for real estate, and then when somebody defers their taxes, they go into a different commitment called the deferred taxes. So we have parcels sitting there, whoever has deferred taxes. So then when we get the money from the deferred, it will go into that account. It's just general fund.
Does that money, that money
Yeah.
goes into the general fund? Can it be used to fund operations or capital expenses ultimately?
Yeah, it would go, once we get the money, it would basically fund that year's operating budget.
Okay.
And just like anything else, what's ever left over would close to the fund.
And I would assume the same answer applies to the waiving interest provision. That just means we get less money. It goes-
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And the issue in Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, Dean, as an attorney, you'll recognize it. In essence, there's a Liz pendants.
Yeah.
That's filed, and the town's done that.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other comments that the assessors or the finance department wants to make? Seth? And
Yeah, I'm running up against the
I
clock,
know.
so if somebody has something for me, I would be here to answer it.
I was just going to ask, anything from Mr. Taylor?
I just have one comment.
Yes, Carrie.
So some of these, the one that he's talking about, the tax title one, we just received on Friday. So if you do have an interest in this and you want somebody to put something together, Sharon would have to reach out to town council and.
Yeah. I will have some conversation about what we want to do with all of this. My kind of hunch is that we might want to refer this to the town manager and her staff to come up with a kind of a menu to bring back to us. And then we can, take from the proposals that Mr. Taylor put together and the ones we might select and pick from these. We could identify them tonight and then we could take votes on them at some point if we want to put them on the
That's a fine
warrant.
course of action, and I'm ready.
Are there any public comments? Yes, Brian?
You guys, excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, you guys all set with me?
I think we are, Seth.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you for-
appreciate your attention tonight, and I appreciate you getting this on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. I think this is one of those times when I'm proud to be looking at you guys as having this level of interest in actually working towards something that is hugely beneficial for the people that are currently living in town.
Thank you for putting this together, Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth.
Brian, please.
All right, for the record, Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road.
Thank you.
The giving a tax exemption to renting out to people year-round seems like a really smart idea, and using our infrastructure and creating affordable housing. And then I guess the other thing I'd like for you guys to take in consideration possibly is, which I haven't seen it used a lot, but it was used to, like the summer rentals, they'd rent out for the 3 months this summertime, but then they'd give like a discount rate for the other 9 months. Maybe if something along those lines could be, given a small tax exemption to that too, because that was like a pretty valuable source of affordable, housing for, I had a lot of friends in school that did it, and then also like younger people can afford to live at the discounted rate over the 9 months. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, I'll bring it back to the board. What do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, yeah. So I would like to suggest, in summary, that we ask the town manager and the finance department and the Department of Assessing Department to come back with us for I have the ones I would like to recommend, and I need some thoughtful buy-in by the board as well. But under the BRAVE Act, I'm not sure I know how many actual veterans this is going to affect in the town, but why wouldn't we do this to adopt the veteran clause 22G and 22H? I mean, why not? It could be a veteran at some point that would benefit in Chatham from both those clauses being adopted. They aren't currently part of our makeup. Then under the HERO Act as well, clause would adopt similar to Orleans, both clauses 22I and 22J. I would please ask to get a summary kind of describing adopting those clauses and what the motion might be, and then, the warrant article, stemming therefrom. I would like to adopt senior clause 41C.5, as has been mentioned, replacing clause 41. I think that's just as Mr. Taylor said, it was a ballot box. Do we have to go to town meeting with that one as well? Okay, so, okay, absolutely, okay.
Has to go to both?
Yeah.
Both town meeting and the ballot?
Yeah. I thought it was as well. And then I think we ought to be able to offer the means-tested senior exemption. Again, I'm just casting our net widely so that we can capture or offer our year-round residents as many opportunities to save as they possibly can. Whether it affects that many people or not, I don't know, but I think it's important to have it in our quill. And then the housing IGR information guideline, I would like to hear more about that and some more detail about that to know whether or not we should be recommending it to the town for passing. It's by a vote of the select board, subject to our charter. I just don't know what our standing is. It says, following acceptance, the select board may establish the parameters. I want to know more about it. Okay. And then in terms of Mr. Taylor's presentation, I don't mind trying to petition the legislature for a special act for those folks that are in tax title and also deferring. I think it may well receive a warm ear in the General Assembly via our delegation. So I wouldn't mind crafting something there that gets it there under a piece of special legislation. And I think lowering the interest rate on tax deferral accounts is kind of a no-brainer. Was 16, now 8. We could get that to 4 in my mind easily, or even 3. That's the tax deferral interest rate. And then I would also like to adopt the tax title, 10 years, 10% down, 10 years, and no interest, although I would like to know those properties that we'll be giving up some interest that perhaps is warranted. I don't want to do a blanket no interest. If there's scofflaws out there, I don't want them to get away with being scofflaws. So those are my notions, and I think, I just want to say also that I think, really appreciate the effort here. This is a lot of work. You guys know this stuff inside and out. It's fairly arcane, but I think it's really important that we get out there what's available to all the taxpayers, or year-round taxpayers, most notably in the town of Chatham. So I really do appreciate your efforts, and I look forward to hearing back.
So what I'm hearing is that we refer to the town manager and her staff this menu of, I'm going to say there were 10 or 12 items here, which included all of Mr. Taylor's items, to develop a report back to us which fleshes out each of them a little more in greater detail, what the implications are. They're going to have to talk with town council before it comes to us to make sure we know to implement this, and then we would vote on them. We would vote on whether ones we want to put on there's one that would go on a ballot, and others that will go on a warrant. And we could decide on the interest rate, if we want to do that, whether it's 4% or something else. So we wouldn't take any votes tonight. That would be my recommendation.
No, we got more work to do, but I think it's.
But I think we're more focused.
Very good.
Shireen?
And I'd like to hear more about our senior work-off abatement program, how many people are utilizing that, and
It's really good.
I think it's really important so that we can consider that increase, which also the veteran work-off increase, as well as the legally blind.
Is that a separate item? I didn't.
No, I don't think it has to be.
No, I just didn't know whether it was listed separately. If so, we
It's
should.
4 and 5 in the,
What we already have in the book.
yeah, what we already
Okay,
have here.
okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
just
we'll
want to
make
hear
note of that.
more, because I think,
Okay,
Good, thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
I think we're done with this these two items. Thank you very much. All right, now we're back to the regular agenda, and I will return to item C, to revisit the vote regarding the decision to pause 127 Old Harbor Road's progress. Community Housing Partnership Committee made a recommendation to us, and I'll call on Carolyn McClelland. And I know we have our Housing and Sustainability Director present as well. Thank you all. So Carolyn? Sorry.
Evening, folks. Carolyn McClellan, Chair of the Community Housing Partnership. Thank you for reconsidering this vote here. Obviously, I really want 127 to move forward. I know there was some hesitancy to do this at this time, but I really think having already done the test fits, we should move ahead and do the design guidelines and have them. We've already invested in the consultant to do that work. They're ready to go, get that in front of us, and then you can make a decision whether or not you want to move forward with the RFP. I know there's some concerns from the public, and they're trying to relitigate whether or not we should be building there or not, but town meeting has voted. This is what this is what we're doing. We have an obligation to make them, give them an opportunity to look at something that we could build there. If they don't like it, they're not going to vote to finance it. So that's the opportunity for the public to speak again on this development, because ultimately we have to go to them with whatever we end up with and get them to vote for the financing. So we're not doing anything behind the scenes here, but it's our obligation to work on and develop the best possible scenario and to put forward a plan that the public can look at and consider for housing, which is what they voted for in 2023.
So Carolyn, just refresh my recollection on this. The conceptual test fits that we looked at, were they all, were they exclusively attainable? Was that the sense that that 127 would only be attainable housing, or were we talking about?
Well, it's gotta be
because this goes to the source of funding.
It's got to be a 40B, so some of it will have to be affordable.
It has to
as
be
any
40B if you want to.
But it's leaning into attainable, but depends on how many units we do. So I think we were talking about one plausible scenario had us subdividing the lot and making you'd have one unit would be affordable and the other 3 could be attainable. So it would depend upon the ratio, but that's standard 40B, but the goal is to build more attainable than affordable on this lot, as with stepping stones.
And in order to fund the attainable piece, we have to go to town meeting, because we need town meeting's approval to spend the money from as the attainable housing account. Do we have that? Yeah, we have a separate account for
We
that.
do have a separate account, yes.
Right, so we'd have to go to town meeting. If town meeting didn't like the project, they could.
That's the same with
deny
stepping
it.
stone. They're gonna get to vote again.
Okay.
So it's our obligation to come up with the best possible plan, come up with
Okay.
something that they like or they don't like, but they're gonna get to chime in. We're not gonna be able to do anything that they don't like, but we have an obligation in this moment. We can't relitigate the fact whether we're gonna build there or not. That's already been decided, that this is supposed to be for housing. So now it's our job to try to develop the best plan.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members? Corey?
Just more for informational purposes, there's no secret I have a certain position, have had certain positions on this project, and And, you know, and I definitely feel very adamant that town meeting, you know, should be able to weigh into the process and what have you. But I know philosophically I had some concerns about the deed and the will of the donor, and that has been brought up from a legal perspective. Have we, to date, kind of got a analysis or response to that legal position? Because, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, but I don't know if it's just more appropriate for us, kind of from our town council being like, does this have any merit, and what does it do to the process? You know, is that an advisable step right now, is what I'm throwing out there?
Let me say this, because I was going to speak to that. And I start from the premise, I was with you, Corey. I didn't support putting housing on this property. I went to town meeting once. Town meeting agreed with that position, but then it came back to town meeting, and town meeting voted to direct the town to put housing there. And I accept that. And I think that the only way that could be changed is if town meeting decided to change its mind about it, and someone would have to, you know, being a petition article, I guess, to go to town meeting to change that. But that's the direction we have. And we spent a couple of meetings, and this is before Stuart got on the board, going through test fits, and they were revised. And some of them looked kind of attractive, to me anyway. That then the suggestion was made most recently that we pause this because there was some concern that Stepping Stones Road, which had been handled at the Affordable Housing Trust, was moving more quickly toward an RFP, and we should focus on that. And the board voted 2-3, effectively not to proceed with the design work that was being proposed and would cost $15,000, and I was one of the 3. I think Stuart and Corey were among the 3, and Jeff and Shireen were the 2. And then we received these 2 letters, and I intentionally had them put them in the packet from 2 law firms. It's the same letter, 2 different law firms, one of which I know by name, but I don't know anything about them. But to address Corey's question, I'm a little concerned about the letter from Michael Ford, because, you know, I've seen Mr. Ford come before us. I've seen him before other bodies of the town. He's a serious attorney. And he says, this is a quote from the letter, Chatham has a legal and ethical obligation to honor restricted gifts and to respect any donor's intent. Okay. Because of this obligation, the town must comply with the donor's restrictions to maintain trust and encourage future contributions. Now, I don't know whether that second sentence means they must comply, the town must comply because we sort of have this broad obligation to honor restricted gifts generically, or whether he has some legal theory that I'm not aware of. And you may recall when we discussed this a couple of years ago, Mr. Costello was our counsel, and he advised us, he opined that the restrictions had expired under state law. And I pressed him very vigorously on that, and I pointed out a section or 2 of the general laws, and his response was that they were either not applicable or one of them was not applicable, and that the restrictions, in his opinion, had expired. And I accepted that, and I guess I still accept that, but I am troubled about this when I have an attorney who I think has some credibility who says something here, and I'd like to know what his legal theory is. He's representing abutters, or clients who are neighbors and abutters. I would like, this is just my idea, I would like our counsel to reach out to him and ask him, what's your theory? And then ask our counsel to advise us as to whether there's any merit to it in his opinion, or whether, you know, Mr. Costello's opinion is correct. I'm not saying this because I want to put an obstacle in front of this. I really am not. I was trying to stop it 2 years ago because I really thought there was a problem with it. And I don't know that there is or isn't a problem, but you know, if this has been a letter from somebody that, you know, out of town that I don't really know, is credible, I might feel differently, but that's I don't want to buy a lawsuit on this. And I don't think it would take very much time. I do have a concern about the 15,000, you know, is the suggestion a month ago was, let's spend the 15,000, buy the design work, and then put it in the drawer until we're ready to go forward with an RFP. That's what we were being, not from you, but this is what was being suggested, I think. That's what I heard. Maybe I heard it wrong. So I thought, well, why spend 15,000 when we don't know what we're going to do with it going forward? Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Jeff?
We relied upon an opinion of our town council at the time that the restriction had expired. We went to town meeting and received a vote to use that property for housing. And to revisit the issue when our town council has already opined upon it, and is, I think, a waste of time. We went to town meeting with an opinion of our town council that we took his opinion on every single thing, every other issue. Why single this one out for a test or a revisitation? I don't get it. I think it's subterfuge. I think this property's been so controversial from its beginning. But we as a select board, we relied on our town council, and he had good argument. So I'm not as fearful. You know, I think it's not good management to continue down a road where we were considering developing that property and get almost to the point where we at least get some design guidelines for very low money, or not low money, 15 grand is a lot of money, but for a modicum of incremental expense to get to the point where we can say, hey, look, what do we say? How does this look? Well, how does this really? You guys spent, I wasn't at the meeting, I watched the rerun, I was on vacation, but you guys spent almost an entire meeting going through the different scenarios, 3 different scenarios. I mean, you guys did a lot of work, great work, I thought. And then to do all that work and then say, oh, no, we shouldn't do it. Can't go any further now. We got to pause. No, I don't think it's correct. And you know, the need, what gets lost in all this falderall and noise is the need for housing in this town. The need for year-round, affordable, and attainable housing in this town. That's what gets lost. That's what we want to do. That's what we've made a commitment to do as a board for a long time, guys. And in fact, you know, I look in the mirror at myself. I've been on the board. This is my 5th term. What have I done about housing? Nothing till now. Really nothing substantive till now. 10 units and 7 units in 10 years or whatever. Our track record as a board's been abysmal. I've been a member of the board. So some of it's on me. But now we're at the point, we're at the precipice of opportunity. Penrose and 127. To say pause 127, we're scared about a lawsuit, I just think is the wrong move, and I'm totally against it.
Let me just ask you, Jeff, so if we spend the 15,000 and get these design guidelines done now, what happens next? Because the suggestion last time was still pause it. That's what was presented. Did I misunderstand?
I'm going to listen to Shireen for a second, because I
So
know what I would
It wasn't
like.
my intention to blow this project up. It
No, I
wasn't
know
my
it wasn't.
intention for that vote to be taken. And so I felt it was good intention to, let's just jump over 127 and get something in the queue that we know was ready to go. They're both meritable properties with meritable projects, and we're under obligation from town meeting to say, let's move this forward. What I was anticipating was that we were going to get bogged down more, and it wasn't efficient to start with 127. We should have started with stepping stones. It just seemed like it was a more efficient project to work towards. That was my intention. But again, in my, you know, I didn't see it coming kind of thing, that the vote would have been taken to just put it aside. So I think the 2 projects can move forward. I just wanted to move the stepping stones ahead of it. That was it.
So you're saying that if the board decided tonight to change its mind and go ahead with these design guidelines, pay the 15,000, that the next step, it wouldn't pause the project, it would,
Just move things forward, just keep moving them forward, but the stepping
the
stones
next
just seem
step
to
would be
go
an
forward
RFP.
faster.
It would be an RFP.
Right.
One thing that was lost in separating these, if you remember when we were talking about these properties at previous meetings, we talked about the option of allowing a developer to bid on both of them, because the fear was that, or the concern was that 127 might not invite a sufficient number of bids, and that seems to be lost now, I guess.
It's definitely a concern I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me to had brought that up was simply, in my mind at that time was, let's move something ahead, quickly, get it out of the way, get to the next one, which was Old Harbor. And I am deeply apologize to Carolyn for this in just mucking up the works, but I want to see this go forward. This is important to the town.
Any other comments from the board? Stuart, and then Corey.
Yeah, other than Shireen's explanation on the previous vote, is there any other information that's new that we're bringing? Why is this back before us? We already voted against it.
I put it on the agenda because a committee had recommended that we reconsider it, and if a committee comes forward with something, that's my approach is to put it.
Yeah, that's your prerogative. It's just very short time period that
Yeah, I
we took
know.
the vote and then we're back here. So twofold, I guess, two things. I'm interested in your, the legal question from maybe town council. I'm going to say, I don't know whether it should be this town council, but nonetheless, some people get.
He wasn't the town council that gave us the opinion to.
Yeah, I see that. I think I have everybody's here. But some people get too close to issues and lose our objectivity. In any event, I've reviewed, I think, all of the paper that there is. I've looked at the will. God help you trying to read that. That's pretty old. I've read the codicil. I've read the town meeting votes. To me, the intention of this gift is clear. I can read it back so the public hears this again. I devise to the town of Chatham, my land on Old Harbor Road, in said Chatham, together with the buildings thereto, with the provisions and upon the conditions that the same shall be designated as the Marion Ellis Playground, and that no buildings other than those that are there on the premises at my demise shall be placed or maintained thereupon. It being my purpose in making this gift, that said land shall be used for an additional playground, recreational area for the present site of the school located on the abutting property. At town meeting, that vote was unanimous. At town meeting, the then representative of the Ellis property handed the keys to the chairman of the board. This is the days when, you made a deal on a handshake, and I think our obligation is to uphold our end of the deal, irrespective of, they certainly didn't mention or know anything about 30 years. We just heard before that the CHOP housing, people thought that was going to go on forever, and that didn't happen. So I don't know how we can have it both ways. I think it's important that we uphold what we have said we would do, and if you're not going to uphold that, I think that's terrible. I think who would ever donate property to us again? So. Now, I should say that since then, I've had a discussion with some folks that are interesting in a way that I think would at least resolve part of this issue that town meeting took a gift, accepted a gift, as to who might be eligible for any affordable or attainable housing on that property. maybe it could be, I don't know, but maybe that could be narrowed to people who are affiliated, maybe teachers to the school, and that would be maybe fulfilling a portion of this, her wish here. And then lastly, I'll say, I voted against it because of this, and because I felt, and I still do, that we are putting way too many projects forward at once. There is no timeline for this affordable housing threshold. There is, we didn't do anything since, what, 1970 or something? So it's not like we're rushed now. Yes, there is a nationwide and a community-wide housing problem, Cape-wide. But I'm concerned that we're making rash decisions and not thinking these things through. I won't beat a dead horse, but I will say again, we're going to see the day that we regret the West Chatham project. I'm just telling you that right now. And I hope, that doesn't matter. It's part of my discussion. So that's my argument. And, I say we hold off. I already have concerns about stepping stones, that we moved forward with an RFP before this board saw the final version of it. How do we complain about Congress making decisions and votes, bills they don't read? We do the same thing here. So I think we need to slow down. I want to see how these projects, if they happen, how they transpire and how they look and how they serve the community. So I don't think there's any rush to this. I really want to see how this stepping stone project moves forward, if it moves forward, and that we get that one right. Thank you.
Corey, you were next. And
I just want to make just part of the conversation, because, aside from my feelings about the will, town meeting did vote for affordable housing. The conversations I've had with many have given me the tone, and this, I got to put this on the table, is we never had a hard number, but it was 2, 3, someone can maybe argue maybe 4 units were the expectation of how we were going to develop it. Lord knows during these conversations we've had numbers much, much higher, which, obviously some of the numbers are unrealistic and they're never going to fit the neighborhood. But that's, I think, what's bothers some people who have supported that. They want the affordable housing unit, and if town meeting wants to move forward with the affordable housing unit, that's wonderful. But I guess, and I hate using the term, but it's the density issue always becomes a kind of a stumbling block for some of these conversations. What is the correct? And then we interviewed a bunch of people earlier tonight, and I do think one of their multiple times there was just the response to the density came up. This needs to be done on a parcel by parcel basis, and I think this is a prime example of parcel by parcel. What is the density? And I'm not advocating one or another, but I think this has just been a very uncomfortable project to discuss because we kind of were so eager to get it going. It'd been kind of sitting unused and idle, further along. We had good intentions. We probably could have done a better job getting it out of the gate. So there's been a lot of dynamics that have just clashed together to put us where we are now. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully we can get some of these projects together and make some of these work. But this has definitely been one of the least enjoyable projects I've had in all the years I've been on the board.
Jeff, then Shireen.
So, we're rushing to do this project. How many years have we been talking about this? How many years? Years. Buildings unused. Years we've been masticating, bloviating about this project. And all we're trying to do is provide housing. If our town council had come back and said to us, you must honor that will, select board, inviolate, then I'd say, all bets off. As a responsible member of the select board, I'd say all bets off. But that's not what our town council came back to us with. Our town council said that restriction has expired. You may use that piece of property for affordable housing, go with God. And the town meeting has voted. And for us not to at least approve guidelines to give us a taste of what might be, to Corey's recent point, we're in the driver's seat on what goes there. We're in the driver's seat. And town meeting's ultimately going to vote. So we're in the driver's seat on what goes there. How many units, what they look like. and on and on. So why would we as a board say, oh, no, town meeting vote's no good, we're going to back off, we're going to honor the will, after you've been told we don't have to? Why would we do that as a board if we want housing?
Shereen?
I'm listening to Corey, and I'm thinking back to when we were looking at the test fits. I thought we had a really good engaging exchange. Everybody looked at the designs. They were very surprised that it fit the, how well the design could fit the neighborhood. The discussion was, yes, this many versus that many. Is this too many? Is that too many? Or is this just right? I thought we were in good shape. And that's probably why I thought the pause was a good timing, and it wasn't. And so I felt that was one of the more creative moments this board had in working on that, working through that project. And I felt pretty confident that if we go to design, we'll still have the opportunity to tweak it. The density issue wasn't there. It really fit, and it just looked like it was just streamlined, eclectic housing. The whole neighborhood is just like that. I mean, I was really amazed at it. Was Unions, was it, who did the?
UTL.
UTL did that, and they're renowned for understanding, and they sat with us and they talked with us and they got a better understanding of all. I mean, this isn't going to be a place where there'll be high density. It just doesn't. It doesn't fit. This was a really cool project, and I just don't understand why not. I agree with Jeff on what he said about process and how we got here.
Can I comment again at some point?
Yes, Carolyn, go ahead, please.
All right, just a little more history. We actually went to town meeting 3 times on this, because the first time we went was a citizen's petition, and it was non-binding, and we had over 90% support on this. And yes, town council has ruled on this, I think, at 3 different meetings. And the fact, I'm not an attorney, obviously, but the fact that there's 2 attorneys that disagree with each other seems to be a common phenomenon. They're both advocating for their client. And the fact that you could dismiss town council over an attorney who's advocating for their client, I don't understand how that has so much weight in this conversation when you are bound by town meeting vote to proceed on this. And again, I can't impress on you enough that this has to go to town meeting. So the issue about what the public wants us to do, what they're willing to support, will all be, they'll have their chance to support this or not when they have to fund it. So there's nothing that you can't do something wrong and get something through without town support at this point. And also, if you look at, however this ends up being, whatever the test fits, the design guidelines are, it might help alleviate some of the density on Stepping Stone. If we get a developer to come along and he wants to do both projects, and however many units they need to build, to make it economical for them. I mean, having a bigger picture, and again, we can't do anything without town meeting support, so nothing's going to run away on us with this. But having the option, having the developer come and look at whatever can be done and coming up with the best solution, and then going to town meeting, getting the support, either it happens or it doesn't. It's going to be up to them. It's not up to us. Our obligation is to come up with the best plan possible and to bring it to the public.
You're suggesting that if 127 went out separately, that a developer might look at that and say, I'll bid on both of them?
I think it's going to be hard to get, I think we'll get more options
Okay.
to do that, especially for, definitely. I like the option.
I just wanted to clarify something. I'm not saying that I put more trust in these, or confidence in these letters, this one letter, really, than I do in town council. And if you go back and play, I have not, but I remember that meeting, and my good friend, and he is my good friend, said I was engaging in legal gobbledygook at the time. I think that was the word he used. Tonight, I think you used something
much more articulate.
Subterfuge or something. And I was puzzled by Pat Costello's response, but I accepted it because I had great regard for Mr. Costello, and that was the opinion. But we did not have letters lawyer letters at that time from abutters saying, there's sort of an implicit threat that they'll sue. It doesn't say that. And that, I guess, if I'm a private person and I had an attorney who told me X, and then a few years later I was going to consider undertaking that course of action, and then I get a letter from a lawyer saying, hey, you've got a problem with this, and I have a new lawyer, I might want to go to my new lawyer and say, what do you think of this, before I make the decision to go forward. That's kind of where I'm inclining. Corey, then Stuart, I'm sorry, and then we have some public.
So I'm in agreement, but put aside my feelings on the project, my comments over the years. We have a project. We've taken multiple steps, multiple conversations, whatever. We've at a point where we have two legal entities presenting us information that we can either ignore or we can either review and figure out, is it something that we need to worry about or not worry about? I think the mechanics of this is we have two legal entities reaching out to us. I think it's our duty to have town council at least weigh in. It's not going to take months to do this. This is something I think we can relatively turn around in a short time. Have our current town council weigh in, and we can go back and forth. But I think the responsible thing to do is to have our current town council say, is this something we should be worried about, or can we just move forward and then we move it forward and we vote yay or nay? But I do think we have a responsibility to at least engage in or address these legal, letters that have come forward to us, because, do they have any merit, or the scope of the validity on it? I think this is the responsible thing to do, just for us being in the seat. We have to address what is in the best interest of the public from a legal perspective. And if town council says, nope, not worried about it, then that would help me kind of process this a little bit better. If he comes back and says, no, you should be worried about this because of this, this, and this, then we got to kind of really have a sit down and kind of figure out, obviously two attorneys disagreeing, not a big surprise. But I do think the mechanics of it, it's what we're supposed to do.
Are those letters from two different attorneys? Because the
Yes.
verbiage is exactly the same. in
They're
both
identical
letters.
letters, but they're two different, they probably communicate.
They obviously communicating
with each other.
They can like come up with one argument.
Yes, it's
the same letter.
It's the same letter.
I want to modify something I said initially when I talked about our town council possibly reaching out to them. I think we could, if we wanted to do this, we could get our town council just looking at it himself. And he should look at Mr. Costello's advice. He should view the video of that when Costello, and I pressed him vigorously, and he responded. And he was very confident about this not being a problem. But anyway, someone else wanted to, Stuart, I'm sorry.
So, similar to your comments, Dean, I don't know why we would just unnecessarily walk into a potential conflict with the neighbors and the law firm. I don't think it's necessary. I don't know what the hurry is. We can get this opinion in a reasonable amount of time, as Corey said. I mean, this isn't going to take very long. I would like the legal opinion to address the gift issue that, the previous attorney had mentioned that, or I think it was Ford, Michael Ford, addressing what are our obligations, legal if any. I know what the moral and ethical obligations are. You want to talk about obligations to town meeting? Yeah, we do, because there weren't 3 votes on this. There were 5, and started in 1971. So I think that it's, and that first one was a gift to the town, and we use it in accordance. I've also just want to reiterate that there may be, I think, a way to address those gift concerns if we can have a conversation with Mr. Ford and town council to at least go along with the spirit, if not the letter of the law, letter of the gift wording, by ensuring that those, if we get to building attainable housing there, that we do so, and that people who work at the school get to benefit from that. It's an interesting, I didn't think of this, somebody else,
I'm sorry.
No, I think that
similar to my other arguments that I lost, and that was stepping stones and the parking fee. All I'm asking is for a little bit longer to cross the i's or cross the t's and dot the i's, and it's just time, and we've got plenty of it.
Just in response, thank you. Just in response to two things you said, I think our town council, if we were to ask him, could probably give us an opinion within a few days, what he thinks of this. And I do know, for the record, that these letters don't articulate any legal theory. They just say, you've got a legal problem. That's basically what they say. And it could be just bluster, but, you know, I'm very careful as a lawyer when I sign my name to something. If I say there's a problem, then in my head, no, I've got something to back it up. Some of my professional brethren may not operate the same way. The second thing about making it possible that any development here be available to school teachers or others, I think that's something that would be available to us under the seasonal communities law, right, or designation or otherwise, right? And that's, I don't think we would need to involve outside attorneys in that.
Yeah, and that's fine. I didn't mean to put you on this. I didn't want to mention.
No, it's.
Gloria, you were the one that brought that up. Credit goes to Gloria.
Could you clarify?
I did.
Would you mind clarifying that? Yeah.
Sure. So
Sorry.
seasonal, and actually, this is all tied in to restrictions and the length of them. So seasonal communities would allow us to target dwelling units to teachers, school employees, DPW workers, and stuff like that. And you can choose to use that designation to target for teachers specifically, or maybe it's a little bit more broad, like anyone who works for the schools or the Chatham schools. So that said, and I love looking at statute, and I really enjoy trying to figure things out and find things. So one of my concerns, which has been bubbling up, Jill, this is the first time you're hearing this. One of my concerns, which has been bubbling up, is that Mass General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 31, which is probably what Pat refers to, lays out exactly what kinds of restrictions you can do in perpetuity. Agricultural preservation restrictions, affordable housing restrictions, there's a bunch of them. If it's not specifically mentioned in statute, there's a lot of case law and decisions that say that these types of restrictions that are not mentioned as restrictions that can be made in perpetuity expire after 30 years. So I knew this from when I was doing development and we would write homeowners association restrictions. We knew that they were valid for 30 years. The chop houses are a little different. They had a deed rider that was good for 40 years, but they were not in perpetuity. But if you don't have the right under statute to do a restriction in perpetuity, it's common knowledge, and town council will give you the same opinion, that it expires in 30 years. So it's not so much that this was like a gift, it's that it was the restriction on the gift. And restrictions, if they're not allowed to be in perpetuity under Chapter 184, Section 31, expire in 30 years. So it is what it is. So that really is going to be the answer that you get from town council about this. And I think it's probably an answer that you can read in this, because if you read the actual language of this, it says, our clients through us have previously expressed doubts about the legality. So it doesn't say to me that attorneys are expressing doubts, but it's fine if you want town council to review this, if the town manager agrees with that. But it doesn't seem like it's something that, like Dean, you said, mentioned statute for why this would be able to be a restriction in perpetuity. So getting back to seasonal communities and being able to target these restrictions, one of the concerns I have, and I'll probably recommend doing a warrant article to address this, is that year-round restrictions and attainable restrictions are not listed in Chapter 184, Section 31. So my take would be that any restrictions that we put on attainable housing that we create over 100% AMI, because the CPA statute actually does allow for restrictions in perpetuity, so you can go up to 100% AMI if you're using CPA funds, 80% AMI otherwise. But for attainable and year-round restrictions, like, we need to get something in place so that we can do these in perpetuity, because right now I don't really think we can. That said, and Stuart already had, I think I emailed him like draft language for what I was thinking about. That said, I think that it makes sense to do a home rule petition so that the town of Chatham, notwithstanding restrictions that can be held in perpetuity under the Mass General laws that I referenced earlier, the town of Chatham can also do restrictions that are year-round and for attainable housing up to, say, 200% AMI in perpetuity.
I just want to say two things. The section of the letter, the portion of the letter that I quoted from earlier does not refer to the clients. It's a flat statement signed by the lawyer at the end saying the town must comply with the donor's restrictions to maintain trust and encourage future contributions. That's their statement as an attorney. The other thing about and I haven't gone back and researched, I never have researched the whole area. I didn't research it when I was questioning Mr. Costello, but there was I believe there was another section. My recollection is there was another section of Chapter 141 that I was referring to, and I pointed it to Pat, and I said, doesn't this mean that this restrictions lasts? And he said no. And I believe he said that on the basis of his reading of case law, which I hadn't read. So I just really wanted to point out, but anyway, that's that aside. I don't want to debate that issue. The question is basically, does it make any sense to ask Mr. Talaman to affirm or not affirm that? But anyway, if there's unless there's, okay, we have a couple of comments from the board, and then I'm going to go to the public. Go ahead, Stuart, and then Jeff.
So, thank you, Gloria. That was helpful. Because I think we have the opportunity, if we just tap the brakes a little bit for a month, to get legal opinion on that issue that Mr. Ford has raised, and simultaneously a home rule petition and some buy-in with the neighbors. I mean, really, we have an opportunity where everybody can come together and make this work. We just have to, it's not going anywhere. That property is not leaving. And I think it's important, and I've heard a lot of public input on how important it is that we honor our commitments. And I think that's, I won't say I don't care what the legal argument is. I do. That is one argument. But the other portion of this is to satisfy that, and I think we can do that. Thank you.
Jeff.
I think we can satisfy the intent of the will. When we first started to discuss 127 Old Harbor, at this board meeting, it was stated, I believe by me, that it would be great to have teachers, firemen, local employees live there. Does anybody recollect that? Oh, yeah. I think I used the phrase, this is low-hanging fruit.
It could very well.
Low-hanging fruit for this town.
I think we just need to tighten up a few loose ends, and I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. It could be good. Even the neighbors may accept this. Wouldn't that be great? Why would we jam something down people's throat when we don't have to? Why would we invite a legal argument when we don't need to? All we need is a little time, and we have plenty of it.
So you think the legal argument that we're going to house teachers is going to placate the neighbors?
I think that coupled with an appropriate, and I don't know what that is yet because I haven't seen it, an appropriate vision of what that property could look like I think so. I mean, it could.
Okay, good. Now we're slowing down. We're slowing down, however, that ability to get that appropriate vision of what the property might look like for $15,000. For a legal opinion, it's going to take, we're not going to see it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we don't meet until the 14th.
No,
we could get a legal opinion in 2 or 3 days, I think.
Yeah, I think we could too.
Any town council.
This is total. But anyway.
Okay, we're getting a little repetitive here, but Corey, did you have one last thing to say? Then
I was just going to simply say, in the very last paragraph of the cover letter from Attorney Ford, it says, Chatham has a legal and ethical obligation to honor restricted gifts and to respect any donor's intent. what is the background behind the legal?
Exactly.
That's all
Let's find
all
out what that is. I don't know what it, maybe it doesn't exist. But I do know one thing, and then I'll shut up.
Maybe it opens up the door to the conversations that we're throwing around. I mean,
There,
Go ahead, Stuart. Stuart.
never mind, I'm just repeating.
Okay. Yeah, I just say, I don't know that I want to invite outside law firms into the development of the property. That's all I'm saying. I have an issue, I have concern about that. But anyway, public, I see Nicole Stern. Anyone in the audience? Okay, I called Nicole first, so we'll let her speak. Ms. Stern.
Thank you very much. Let's see, Old Harbor Road has been controversial for a long time. And I remember the first meeting that I became really aware of Old Harbor Road or affordable housing was our first outdoor town meeting following COVID. The town, the people, of course they wanted to support affordable housing because in their minds, and they were told this, was it would be to support the people that were living and working in Chatham and to keep our families here so that we could continue to increase the number of students at our elementary school. So yes, everybody was on board. But, then things become realistic and things that I wasn't aware of, they weren't aware of. And so I could see why they were so, but it wasn't. She made it very clear when she left that to the town of Chatham. She made it clear how she wanted it used. And all of a sudden, there were dozens of people that were reading a dead person's mind. I took great objection to that. I think we should have done the right thing. And there were opportunities before we pushed on to affordable housing that we could have fulfilled every wish that she had. It came up during the Council of Aging, looking for a home for them. There were lots of opportunities. So this is not an easy situation. It never has been. I don't know how town meeting would respond now. They're not feeling quite the same way as they did a year ago when they became educated. And we all realize that there are restrictions and things we don't control with affordable housing. So they might not vote for it. Maybe they would. But in the meantime, why are you taking $15,000 of taxpayer money and flushing it down the toilet just in case they don't? I don't think there's any reason to move forward on this right now. I know for a fact, because I've watched all of you, when you've referred to town council, you didn't always agree with town council, but that was town council. Well, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what lies ahead, but I don't think you need to push this right now.
Okay.
Especially, as I said, my dead brother, should he rest in peace, used to say to me when I'd find a quarter on the sidewalk, well, keep it, Nicole, because you wouldn't flush it down the toilet. So please don't flush our $15,000 down the toilet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to go to Brian Phillips, then Gloria Hicks, and then Elaine Gibbs.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I just kind of have a big problem with the will, and people donating for the future, because it kind of sends the message that, after 30 years, we're just going to go against your dying wishes. I just don't know why we can't use another piece of property that isn't so controversial. Thank you.
Gloria Hicks. Thank you, Brian.
Gloria Hicks, Meeting House Road. I was at the meeting where this property was put on hold, and I have to tell you, I was stunned. I have no idea why this is not proceeding like every other project, because we get a threatening lawyer from abutters because it's, quote, contentious with the abutters. That was the reason that I think was brought up in the first place. Every one of these projects has been contentious with the abutters. I am an abutter. I have a lawyer. The Bakers have a lawyer. Maybe Mr. Levitt has a lawyer. That's how this goes. This piece of property should not be treated any differently than the other parcels that we've worked on. And I knew it would be, because it's in Chatham proper. All right? Gloria has just talked about the statute. It was run by Council Costello. It went to town meeting. Period. Done deal. This never should have been put on hold in the beginning. We're desperate for housing, in particular attainable housing for the workforce. And we haven't even talked about senior housing. That's not on anybody's radar right now, getting through these projects. This needs to go forward, period. And it doesn't need to wait. It needs to go now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Elaine Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. A couple things. First of all, pragmatically, I think that it's not the highest best use of the land there, and I think it's a bad return on the investment. There could only be a couple units there because of the space. The only land we have downtown right now is Veterans Field and that. And I don't think we should do anything permanent there because of her intent. I think if you had 10 town council opinions, 10 town councils, you get 10 town council opinions. Her deed and wishes were clear. She had an attorney that drafted it. Back then, I assume there was no case law that said in perpetuity meant 30 years, or she probably wouldn't have done it. I think this approach that just ignore her is going to come back to haunt you, because when people want to consider donating land to the town, and they expressly say, regardless of case law, that this is what I want to do, you're not going to get it. People are not going to do it. So I would urge you to get some of the other opinions. I think the town meeting vote could have been unintentionally illegal because of her will, that people were under the misconception. This is totally different than stepping stones. That was given to us to use as we wish from the Monomoy School District. This was not. This is an encumbered piece of property, and I think you should be a little less callous about Mrs. Ellis's wishes. And I'm pretty shocked at the attitude that she's immaterial in this discussion. Those words that Mr. Smith read were pretty specific. And that's what she believed, and I think we should honor it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are no more public comments. I'm going to bring it back to the board. Shireen.
I just want to remind everybody that, and I just checked with Corey to make sure, we built a playground for her on that property. And it's there, and there's a plaque, and it's not like she's gone. I think the most dishonorable thing we've done is ignore that property. And it has been used for, I don't know, storage for the harbor master's department, emergency response stuff, a water department. And we could go around and round and round and round about all this stuff and do this for that, or say this for that. So that's a bunch of B for me to hear we're honoring, when in fact it has been used for other reasons. The playground's a really nice playground. We really did well in putting it there. And let's just move forward with this.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
The playground is not all that was mentioned in the codicil. It mentions the buildings and how they should be maintained as is. So, you know, we can haggle about this, but I'll just say it again. If we just get a little bit more information, if we just do a little bit more homework, if we just maybe work with the neighbors a little bit more, we might be able to do something without having a battle about it. And it just takes time. That's all.
Well, What we have before us is a request from the Housing Partnership, basically to reverse and give this the go-ahead by voting to approve a $15,000 expenditure for design guidelines, which would be incorporated into an RFP, and that process would move forward. That's what's before us for consideration. And, I mean, it's obvious that the board is split on this. And, you know, my inclination, again, is, hey, I got this letter, I understand what, you know, what Ms. Hicks was saying, but we're at a point now where we're about to make a decision, and we've got letters representing abutters. We don't know who they are, but they haven't been identified, but I'm taking them at face value. And I'd like to send this, I personally would like to send this to Mr. Talaman and just say, hey, we're considering going forward with design guidelines that are going to cost $15,000. Can you give us, take a look at this letter, take a look at what Mr. Costello said, watch that video from 2 years ago. I wouldn't ask him to reach out to the lawyers who signed these letters. Are we okay going forward? Does this give you any pause? That's my sentiment on it.
And why were you going to believe him any more than you're going to believe Mr. Costello, Dean?
I think if Mr. Costello were still town council, I would send him these letters and say, Pat, does this affect anything in your opinion? That's what I would say.
You've always agreed with town council.
I have.
Thank you.
I have.
Thank you.
If that's what we're going, if we're going to ask town council, I think that's the prudent thing to do. I'd like him to address the concerns that Mr. Ford has in the letter, and if we have any legal, we definitely have a moral and ethical obligation. That's unquestionable. But do we have a legal obligation to use this gift as clearly was stated in town meeting in 1970?
The only thing I would say about the moral obligation, that argument was made at town meeting, and I'm not talking about 1971, I'm talking about 2020, and town meeting voted the other way.
Yeah, and okay, I can disagree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I did.
And I do.
All right. Carolyn, did you want to say something? And then I'm going to ask the board if anybody wants to offer a motion to do anything. Otherwise, it's going to die.
If you, which I think by the numbers, you're going to go to town council and get this.
All I can say is, I had two in one direction, two in the other direction, and I'm going to offend half this board whichever way I go. But go ahead, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Price of rank.
Yeah,
No, I don't have any comments at this point.
okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Gloria?
Can you do an if-then motion so that if town council says that the restrictions no longer apply, then we can move forward with the design guidelines?
I'm not in favor of that, but I am in favor of going down that road, and I'd like more information on the seasonal communities and what we're able to do with this piece of property, restricting it for, as Jeff has pointed out, and you, for teachers and whomever else, to get closer to the intent of the gift, yes. I think that would be very helpful, for me anyway. And I'd like to move forward on something that has like unanimity here. And we keep coming up with split votes, and I do believe completely unnecessarily. Thank you.
So what additional information do you need on seasonal communities?
Well, for instance, I wasn't quite following your explanation of the law, but are you saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, are you saying that if we were to build 2 homes here for teachers, that we cannot, 2 questions, we cannot restrict it to teachers?
No. So seasonal communities, which was adopted at town meeting 2025, allows you to restrict homes for certain vocations, and
Good,
teachers
great.
are one of them. So you absolutely can do that.
Great, and thank you for bringing that up before. The second thing is, does that restriction go forever?
I guess that would be something that you can put to town council as well. I think no. I think that we would have to do a home rule petition, or the legislature would have to do something that would enable year-round and attainable restrictions to be in perpetuity.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of shocking, isn't it? That, and you might be able to help out, Dean, but it's kind of shocking that we own a piece of property and we can't restrict its use.
The law generally doesn't favor restrictions in perpetuity in general. There's something called the rule against perpetuities, which most law students don't understand, but
Okay.
I mean, it's possible we can get around it by, rather than selling it, doing like a 99-year lease, land lease, because then, I'd have to look into it, but I think that you can keep your restriction during the term of the land lease, which could be 99 years.
given the
That's-
favorable housing climate on
Yeah.
the Beacon Hills, I suspect something like the home rule petition you were talking about might have some favorable response.
I think that would be helpful,
But
because,
that's something
Yeah.
longer term, I think.
but I think that would, it's part of this, it could be part of this process. I think it would be helpful because, we are hearing, right, all of the, little nightmares that are coming out that as Nicole Stern mentioned, that, we thought and aren't turning out to be true, referencing, just the CHOP housing as an example.
So, I mean, so everyone knew that the deed restrictions for the CHOP houses were 40 years. The people who bought CHOP houses knew that. That's why they're holding on to them for their 40-year term.
Right.
So that all of a sudden it's not, deed restricted anymore. And just,
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I went to that town meeting, and the impression that I had was, right or wrong, okay, there's a 40-year limit, but we lost 11 houses.
And we captured some too in resale through the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They ended up doing, they call them a universal deed rider, which actually is in perpetuity. And there's potentially one coming up for sale. Hopefully we'll be able to capture that through the state also. So the town has literally nothing to do with this. We don't have a right of first refusal. We don't have to be notified when there's a sale. It all goes through the state. But now that we're really
getting-
like hyper aware of this, and I am on the case.
I know you are, but nonetheless, 11 of those homes are not,
Exactly.
we lost.
I know.
We lost.
We're getting a little
So we
farther
won't lose
afield
any
here.
others through early sales, but we may lose some if the 40 years is up and someone sells it at like 41 years. Then we have no options. That's why we're looking at potentially doing, deed restrictions that we purchase.
We're getting a little farther afield here, talking about the CHOP houses. Carolyn?
Back to 127, I liked Gloria's original idea of, conditional, if you get the okay from town council, what's your vote gonna be? I'm vehemently opposed to putting a whole bunch of conditions on this to even get the test guidelines, to get design guidelines for this. All right, if you want to, I would love for there to be a teacher there, but if you condition it on a 99-year restriction on only having a teacher there, what if there's no teachers who need it in the given moment that it's available? There's all sorts of scenarios. Can we lean into that? And if that's available to us, apply it as much as we can? Absolutely. But is it conditional? I don't think we need to be discussing that at this moment.
Well, I agree with you on that. I think the seasonal communities opportunities are something that we would be presenting to town meeting when we have the project described and proposal for funding it. As far as the condition that Gloria suggested, that we agree tonight to accept the opinion, that we're going to go forward with it, I'd like to see the opinion before I make that decision. But I suspect he's going to say, I agree with Costello.
You're going to be able to get it back on the agenda in a reasonable amount of time? I know you got lots of...
October 14th is what I would propose to do, which is our next meeting. We're not meeting next week. And I can't imagine town council couldn't give us an opinion within the next few days, certainly this week, or over a week's time. It doesn't usually take them very long to do it, but I don't know, that's just my thinking.
Is there something magic about October 14th?
It's just our next meeting.
It could be the following meeting. Well, but I feel like I have a gun to my head. If you don't do this, we're going to do this. No, I think my position would be, we do exactly as you're suggesting. We just go forward, get a legal opinion on this. You may be right. You may be siding with the previous attorney. I don't know. But it would be one more piece of information. I'm glad to hear about the seasonal communities. That's encouraging. But I'm not going to sit here and say, do this or else. No.
I don't think we need to make that determination tonight, that piece of it. As far as putting it on for the 14th, for me, the question I would like to have answered is, what does town council think of this letter and these opinions?
Exactly. And it's up to you as chairperson as to when it goes on the agenda.
Mr. Metters.
One quick question for Gloria. I do not want to get deep into the weeds with it tonight, but something I want prepared for the conversation, because you mentioned something about, we talk about restricting it to teachers and there's certain occupations, but you made an earlier comment, maybe we could broaden that net a little bit to all people who work for the Monomoy School or Chatham School, whatever. I definitely want clarity at some point how broad of that net could be, because if we go so broad that we really don't, we're making it too broad to allow certain restrictions. That needs to be clarified, because these conversations about who we can and cannot restrict it to have been batted around. So at some point, I do want to get more crystal clear what our box is. So that's all I'm looking at. I don't want to get deep into the weeds tonight, but it's something that we need to be prepared to clarify at some point.
I can clarify it right now.
Okay.
So any municipal employee that works for the school district would be eligible under seasonal communities. So you could do it that broad.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, does someone have a motion they want to bring? If not, I'm going to make an executive decision.
Make an executive decision.
Okay. Did you want to speak?
There's two motions to be made. One remanding for requesting a further legal opinion, which is unnecessary. And another one is to suggest that we move forward with the design guidelines. There's two motions to be made. Who would like to make the motion? I'll make the motion to approve move forward with the design guidelines and approve the attached scope of work for design guidelines for a housing development, RFP, for the former Ellis property at 127 Old Harbor Road, and to authorize this work be funded through the town manager's C&E account.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Any discussion? Okay. You sure you want this vote?
Well, are you going to remand it to the lawyers, or I'll make a different motion?
My intention is, if there is no motion and no vote, I'm going to personally, individually, as chair of this board, request an opinion from town council on the advice. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to request the advice of town council on whether the select board should proceed with consideration of undertaking the design guidelines project in light of the letters we received from the Council for Abutters.
And Kathy, would you read that back, please?
It's very convoluted.
Poor Kathy.
It is the request of the chair to seek the advice of town council on whether the select board should proceed with the consideration of undertaking the design guidelines project in light of letters received from legal representatives of the abutters, is what I got there.
But there's no request for an opinion that would concur with Mr. Costello's.
I would hope he would be informed, I would request to be informed of Mr. Costello's opinion.
Okay. So I'm going to withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, well, I'm making that request. Town manager will relate it to Mr. Tellerman.
Yep, got it.
I don't expect or even want him to speak with the attorneys who wrote these letters. I just want him to take a look at the letters and tell us, do we have any concerns about proceeding? And I'd like to have that in time, and I will put it on for October 14th if we get that opinion and response in a timely basis. I expect we will. Okay, so I'll take the heat on it tonight.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Gloria. Okay. The next item is Mr. Smith's request for a discussion on Chapter C, Town Charter, Part 4, Town Manager, Section 4-7, Administrative Powers and Duties, Mr. Smith.
Should be painless. Sorry. This should be painless, Mr. Chairman. So you folks probably know I have a particular affiliate, thank you, for the charter. If you look in the charter under 4-7 M, there's a couple of things that need to take place that haven't, for whatever reason. I don't particularly think it's important. And I'm not even sure we need a vote for this, Mr. Chairman, but I just wanted to bring to light, and I'll read, M, to be responsible for the negotiation of all contracts with town employees over wages and other terms and conditions of employment. That's referring to the town manager's responsibility. And if you'll remember, of course, the town manager is also responsible for those negotiations with the unions and the employees under the personnel policies. What we haven't been seeing is the other contracts that, I'll call them right or wrong, I'll call them personal contracts with employees, typically I think department heads, I'm not sure all of whom they are, with the town manager on employment. And those contracts should be coming back to, actually must be coming back to the board for approval. The last sentence of the contract under M says, contract shall be subject to the approval of the select board. So it's pretty clear that those, not only those, but there's only a few, and we're doing the rest of them under the union, the rest of the employees under the union contract. So I think it should, and I don't believe there's any opposition to that, to bring those contracts back to the select board as is required under M. The other thing that I noticed, that the town manager, it goes on to say, the town manager may, subject to the approval of the select board, employ special counsel to assist in the performance of these duties. That makes perfect sense to me.
Where are you reading that one, Stuart?
Under M. I'm still under M. And I would like to request that whoever those town councils are, special councils are, that those contracts come back for approval to the select board, similar to the general town council. I don't think that that's been taking place. I don't know if we have a contract. I don't think we do, but those contracts have to be coming back to the board. So those are the two issues that I wanted to raise. I don't think there should be any, it's kind of clear, and it kind of tidies up some of our responsibilities, fulfilling our responsibilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Before I turn to the town manager, I want to just comment. In the first sentence of M, there's a stray phrase at the end that says, I suspect that was inadvertently left in the charter, and they probably said originally, except employees of the school department.
Yeah, I suspected the same thing.
So it should probably go out the next time there's a charter review. The second comment about the,
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, or just clarified by saying, except those employees of the school, right?
yeah, whatever, of the school district, yeah. Of course, they're no longer employees of the town, they're employees of the district. The second sentence that you just read, the town manager may, subject to the approval of the select board, employ special counsels to assist in the performance of these duties. These duties are the negotiation of contracts with town employees over wages and terms and conditions of employment. We do have labor counsel, and I'll ask town manager in a moment to speak to that. I don't know that we never really see the contract, and I don't think this line calls for us to review the actual contract, but to approve the employment of special counsel, just as we approved under provisions elsewhere with respect to the select board. It's not in this section of the charter. The select board the select board selects the town council.
We appoint them.
Yeah, we appoint them.
Yeah.
We don't, we review as we've done, we look at the request for proposals and we say, okay, this is you know, we're going to select, we select you, we like what you're proposing in terms of your hourly rates and various conditions, and we send it to the town manager, and she signs the contract. We never actually get the contract in front of us to approve.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I'm just saying, okay, but the last sentence specifically says that we have to, subject to the approval of the board. So I would like to fulfill that.
Yeah, that's the third point, and I don't know whether that means, whether that includes the special counsel, but we can ask the town manager to talk about the labor council and contracts for department heads, which is, I think, what we were talking about.
Okay.
What contracts are the subject that are involved in that third sentence? That's,
Yeah, you want to
Jeff.
go for it? Yeah, I agree with you. I don't believe it means we have to go look at this, a contract with the special counsel. I agree with you. I don't think.
I mean, I think it's appropriate in the conversation if she comes before us and says, I want to hire, you know, Smith and
Right, yeah,
Jones as the
right.
labor council,
Versus-
we can say, you know, how much they're going to charge us. We can get into that.
Well, all I'm doing is repeating the sentence.
Yeah.
In M, the last sentence says, contracts shall be subject to the approval of the select board. All I'm
But the
saying-
only
Again, the only one.
the only antecedent of that, though, Stuart, it's not in that second sentence where they talk about special counsel. It's in the first sentence where they talk about contracts, the union contracts,
All contracts with town employees, and not
contracts with town employees.
special counsel.
Maybe I should read the whole thing again. Would you like me to read the?
I mean,
I don't think it's going to help.
the first sentence says, town manager is responsible to negotiate contracts with employees over wages and terms and conditions of employment. Second sentence says the town manager may, subject to the approval of the select board, employ special counsel to assist in the performance of these duties. There's no mention of a contract with labor council in that sentence. The third sentence says contracts shall be subject to the approval of the select board. So I think, as I read this, and I know you were on the Charter Commission originally, the word contract refers back to the, in the third sentence refers back to the first sentence, which is the union contract.
I totally agree with
That's
you.
how I'm reading it.
I am too.
Corey?
It's
Sure.
it's poorly placed, but that's what I'm.
Well, being the non-attorney that I am, I'm gonna get myself in trouble, you know, hey, what the heck? I mean, the select board's kind of approval of the process or whatever, it says, town manager may, subject to the approval of the select board. So the select board says, okay, go ahead, town council, maybe we have to say, under these conditions, whatever. That is our green light for the town manager to move forward with the special counsel. So that is our kind of check and balance.
Yeah, and I think we could say in that, so as I said, she could come forward and say, I want to hire this firm. We could say, okay, what are the terms that you're going to engage with? And she would probably ask us. We could say in that vote, we want to see the contract before we approve it. But I don't think the charter mandates that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's how
I won't split hairs.
That's how I'm reading it.
That's fine, but I think it would be prudent upon this board to do just that.
Okay.
Which is to review.
I hear you. Okay, now I'll turn to the town
Okay,
manager.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Starting with the employment contracts, we have 3 positions that have contracts for compensation and various terms and conditions. It's the fire chief, the police chief, and the director of finance. Those are the only 3. And up until recently, 2023, we've had promotional appointments for the chiefs, for which the board had approved per the other section of the contract. And the newest contract was for the director of finance, Carrie Mazzarell, who was hired in 2023, and based on the terms of the previous director of finance contract. Those contracts are posted online and available in the binder that we have in the office. I hadn't taken them to the select board. In the past, I had consulted with the board at that time. Florence Selden was chair, because I had trouble reading this section too. I've worked in other municipalities that had a charter that was clear. Some charters didn't require the town manager to take the contracts, since that the town manager can fix the compensation, but nonetheless, we're in Chatham. So I hadn't taken it, and that was the question I had to Chair Selden, what she thought was appropriate. There was some discussion of employee contracts and employee agreements back in 2014, when the board at that time was working through their goal-setting process. It didn't make it into the goals, but nonetheless, I'm happy. I've talked to the three incumbents to those positions. If the board wants to approve them, I'm fine. They're all negotiated within the context of our collective bargaining strategy. So, and you can look back, I didn't negotiate Paulina or the previous fire chief because I wasn't here at the time. I'm not sure what the prior town manager did. But moving forward, I'm happy to bring them to you. So there's really no issue with that.
So when they're up for renewal, and you have one that's coming up for renewal?
We do. We have the fire chief is coming up for renewal. It's for November. And then the finance director's contract expires on July 1st, 2026. So hers would be negotiated. I could set the same process we do for collective bargaining. We can have an executive session to talk about the parameters. But again, if you haven't had a chance to read them, it's very much in line with my contract as well as the collective bargaining agreement.
My suggestion would be that, and I'm going to let Stuart comment on this, but my suggestion would be, in the case of the fire chief and the police chief and the finance director, as those contracts come up for renewal, that you bring the renewal contract forward to us for approval. That's what the charter seems to require. I don't know that we need to go back and ratify the ones that are already in place. I'm happy to do that, but I don't know that we need to do that. Does that meet your concern, Stuart?
No, it does. But I just want to follow up on Jill's comment. It's not really what the board is willing to do. We're required to do this, so it's kind of a job description.
Yes.
Kind of have to do it. And if we don't want to do it, well, we can change the language. We can, if this isn't clear for people, then we can have a charter amendment. But I was hesitant to go that direction because who knows where that will lead.
Yeah.
So I just wanted a few odds and ends to be cleaned up.
No, that's fine, and I think the historical record is that the town manager was operating under guidance given by the select board chair at the time.
Water under the bridge.
So now I'll turn to the Labor Council, and I don't, you and I were chatting about this today, I don't remember, I sort of remembered, I guess, other than Stuart, do we remember ever taking a vote to approve of, what's the name of the?
So I can talk about this. So we've had Clifford and Kenny as Labor Council since October of 2012. And John Clifford and I had spoken. He said he had not given us a contract. So first of all, procurement for town council services doesn't require an RFP. It's exempt. But he had said he provided a fee agreement. So I was trying to look through the town records over the past couple of weeks. So we have a fee agreement. The last one I have the oldest one I have is from 2016. But he references he had been in service. So that the select board since 2012 have relied upon and accepted the advice of Clifford and Kenny, who at that time was just two attorneys, and as you've seen, there's other attorneys that have assisted us for personnel or collective bargaining. The most recent fee agreement was just a notification that came to us in February of 2025, and that was an increase. When we vote the budget, when you recommend the budget to the finance committee and it's voted at town meeting, there's two line items in the budget. One is for town council and the other one is for labor council. So the gist of it is, I didn't find a vote on record of anyone approving or appointing. They are at will, just like town council is. So if we don't want their services, there's really no notification. We just tell them. But if the board is amenable to continuing on with Clifford and Kenny, then to clear up whatever issue may be with the charter, it will be a vote to affirm their services as labor council.
What happened in 2015 again? And when in 2015? That's when I got on the board.
It was 2016. So we had a fee agreement in 2016, raising the rate to a $175. And we also have a monthly access fee. It's no charge. It's $400 and something, so there could be unlimited calls more emails by them. But I did find those in our file.
But that was not presented to the board at the time, select board.
That I don't recall it was. John Clifford said he thought it was, but I don't recall, so it wasn't.
I would suggest that the board consider tonight voting to approve the appointment of Clifford and Kenny as town council. But I'd like to specify, I'd like you to specify what are the current terms? What's the current rate?
The current
You have a
rate-
letter agreement with them now?
I have notification, so I have a letter of agreement that I had signed in 2016, and then I have let's see what I do with it. I have the notification that we just received. I'm not sure where it is, but I wrote notes to myself, so the rates in February 2025 are $250 per hour, and there's no change to the monthly access fee, which means a limited phone and email, and that is $450. That was approved for the FY '26 budget.
And we can, I mean, under court rules, we can anyway, but we can discharge the attorney at any time.
Yes.
Is there a term in the contract, or in the letter agreement? Is there a term of?
There isn't. There wasn't a term.
Similar to the contract we saw with
Exactly.
Mr. Talaman's firm?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's open to the board to take a vote tonight, or if you want to see that contract or that letter agreement, that we could present that to the board. And we're not approving the agreement. In my opinion, we are approving the appointment of counsel, but, I think we have knowledge of what's in the agreement. For me, it's enough, but I leave it up to the board. I want to address Stuart's concern that we're supposed to be approving the selection of labor counsel, and we've never formally taken that vote.
Okay, and just to clarify, we kind of got off a little bit on the Labor Council. It says special counsel.
Yeah, that's what.
So it's
that's what it is.
I don't know if there's any others out there, but if there's any special counsel that the town manager uses, select board.
But it would be special counsel related to the negotiation of contracts.
Yeah.
We don't.
And the
have any
employment,
special labor.
and the employment and the conditions of it.
I think any other special counsel comes under, we selected. She doesn't select it. We selected the airport council.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sort, okay. Or Amy Questle was a special counsel.
Yeah.
So what does the board want to do?
Move approval.
Approval of
what?
the,
Labor Council, Clifford and.
yeah.
Clifford and Kenny.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
Well,
Go ahead.
I feel like this is Congress. Are we moving forward with the approval of a special counsel, and we don't know we don't have the document for the fees or the contract to look at?
Well, I think she's recited the contents of the document. If you want to defer until you see the document, that's fine. But we're not approving the contract. We would not be taking a vote to approve the contract. If you want to defer a vote until that time.
Yeah, I'd like to see what I'm agreeing to. Yeah.
Is there any comment from the rest of the board on this, or we have a motion on the table, it's been seconded?
I don't care, Dean. I don't.
I don't think.
We use them forever,
it's
we
gonna-
use them
it's
forever,
not
there's a
gonna matter
letter. I
one way or
mean,
another, I don't think.
This is but perfunctory. I mean, we've used these guys forever.
Okay. Well,
We can wait, that's fine. That's okay. Fine.
well, in order to.
I'll withdraw the motion. Withdrawn.
Yeah,
I'll withdraw the second, but then
Okay.
finding this a bit.
Let's put this
Okay,
on,
let's pass him the letter.
let's put this on for the 14th, and we'll have the letter.
Sure. Well, I'll scan it. It'll go in the packet for the 14th, so that's
Okay,
fine.
we'll put that on. Okay. I think we've completed, item F. All right?
Are we okay with?
Yeah, I think we're done with item F. Okay, we're going to go on to committee appointments. And there's just one. This is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees, and there is a position available that runs until June 30th, 2026. This is the remainder of Mr. Shell's term, which is now to be filled by a non-select board member. We have had 7 applicants that we've interviewed. They are Catherine Shearer, Brian Phillips, Ann Ryan, Lynn Pleffner, Roger Randall, Hannah Smith, and Melinda Richards. Okay, so I'll ask for nominations.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to appoint Lynn Pleffner as member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees until June 30th, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
So you're nominating Lynn Pleffner. Is there a
Yes.
second to that nomination?
Second?
Okay, that's been nominated and second. Any other nominations? Mr. Metters.
I move to appoint Hannah Smith as a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees until June 30, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
That's been moved and seconded. Any other nominations? I'm going to nominate Ann Ryan for this, as a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees until June 30, 2026, and unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it for consideration, but out of courtesy.
Okay.
I'm being upfront.
No. No, you can't, because it's for board discussion only. Sorry, Carolyn. Okay, so are there any other nominations? Well, we have 3 nominations: Lynn Pleffner, Hannah Smith, and Ann Ryan.
I'd like to nominate Catherine Scherer.
Catherine Scherer, is there a second to that? No second. Okay. There are 3. Okay, I will ask for a vote now on whom you would vote to place in this position. Ms. Davis.
Lynn Pleffner.
Mr. Dykens.
Lynn Pleffner?
Mr. Metters.
Ms. Smith.
Mr. Smith. Sorry, I'm
Hannah
tired.
Hannah Smith, and there's no relation.
Mr. Smith votes Smith, and the chair votes Ann Ryan. So there's, no one wins no one gets 3 votes. So we'll ask for nominations for a second round. I'm not going to nominate Ms. Ryan again.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Lynn Pleffner.
Second?
Lynn Pleffner is nominated and seconded. Any other nominations? Mr. Metters.
I nominate Hannah Smith.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. No other nominations. I'm not going to offer any. All right, we'll call the vote. Again, please vote for the person to fill this position. Ms. Davis.
Lynn Pleffner.
Mr. Dykens.
Lynn Pleffner?
Mr. Metters.
Hannah Smith.
Mr. Smith.
Hannah Smith.
And the chair votes Hannah Smith. Okay, so, well, I guess we'll offer the motion. I move to appoint Hannah Smith as a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees until June 30, 2026, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll on that. Ms. Davis? Aye or no?
Say that again. What was the motion?
This is to formally appoint
Hannah
Smith to this.
No.
Mr. Dykens.
What are we doing now?
We've.
This is the formal action of
This is the
appointing or
formal
not
action
appointing
to
this
appoint
individual.
Hannah Smith. She's been voted 3-2 to be the person, but I thought,
Oh, no,
Just-
no.
okay. Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So Hannah Smith is appointed, 3-2.
Did
Okay.
you say the term in your motion?
Yes, that is in the motion, June 30th, 2026, and so unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. And the next item is the town manager's monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The hour is pretty late, so I'll go pretty quickly and certainly answer any questions if you have any. We launched our new town website early in September with some popular links, including one area that get hits a lot is why is the flag at half-staff? So there's a link for that. We've always had it on the website. We just made it clearer and easier for people to get to. And then our ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act renovations at 549 have been completed for the town clerk's office and the treasurer collector's office. That's for the customer service area, the counter areas. And then our years of service, looking forward to October. We have Jeff Phillips, our police officer, at 17 years. Aaron Hamanen, our police dispatcher, 16 years. Nick Ruggiere, firefighter, 15 years, so quite a lot. Renee Gagney as the shellfish constable for 14 years. Dale Kelly, who you saw tonight, 10 years, and she's, as you know, retiring in December. And Katie Donovan has been here for 9 years, Director of Community Development. Paul Whiteman, Conservation Agent, 8 years. Megan Downey, our HR Director, 5 years. Charlie Chaparral's Police Officer and School Resource Officer for 3 years. Sawyer Bankston, he's with our Projects and Operations team, 2 years. David Caruso, paramedic, firefighter, 1 year. And then Callie Burnham, who's also a firefighter EMT. She was actually a Monomoy Regional School intern with the FD. So that's great. And they have 2 more interns coming in as well. And then Steve Santos is our new hire for the DPW grounds cemeteries laborer. And then we have our health inspector, Andrew Grover. He is replacing, oh my God, it just escaped me. Our previous health inspector, sorry, it's late, who had left to go work for an engineering firm. And so Andrew's a town resident, and we're really excited to have him and his expertise. And then we had a promotion, Don Richardson, to be our heavy equipment operator and vehicle mechanic. And then we're still recruiting for the behavioral health community service clinician, DPW engineering technician, and I think still with the boat operator, marine mechanic. It's been advertised as well. Little short on my end on this report, but certainly the rest of the report, Kathy has indexed the various items for projects. You'll see a lot of pictures throughout the monthly report, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I want to commend the photographs. I don't know whether they initiate with the department head who submitted the report or whether it's Shauna or Kathy or a combination of all of you, including yourself. But I particularly found it helpful in reading the Department of Natural Resources report, which previously, to me, always came across as a little dry. And it was nice to see those pictures. It really piqued my interest. I know that the DPW has had photos in there for some time, and they've added some more here on the fish pier and the boathouse and so forth. So,
especially when we're talking about bulkheads, not everyone knows what it is.
yeah.
And so I thought this
So
was really
anyway,
cool.
any comments? Jeff?
Thank you, Dean. I do have a comment. I too, I agree on the pictures and the detail here, and the pagination back to the projects is excellent. I do have some concern, and concerns have been raised by the mouth of Bucks Creek for dredging. Now, we talk about on Leaders Cove, we talk about Stage Harbor Channel, we talk about off Minister's Point, but Bucks Creek is not getting a flush. There's very little tidal flow there. You don't see any change in tide, and there's a shellfish hatchery there, a town hatchery there, and it's not getting the flush. I had a brief conversation with Renee. She'll probably bring it up later, but I know these things take an extraordinary amount of time to get permitted, so I'd like to put it on the table sooner rather than later that Bucks Creek needs some attention. I'm ready to go down there with a shovel at the mouth.
Okay, will do.
Okay. Take that. Any other comments on the report? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 8:39 PM. Good night.